Meeting order. And if you will all join in the salute to our nation's flag. Ready, begin. No. All right, let's start with roll call and declarations of conflicts of interest, please.
Councilmember Abrams,
Hearing none.
Councilmember Bixel,
Hearing none.
Vice Mayor Franco,
Hearing none.
Councilmember Moniz,
Here, and I have a conflict on 5B, 8B, sorry.
Mayor Bublak.
And I'm here, and I will conflict out on 8A. Thank you. All right, approval of agenda as posted or amended.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call that roll, please?
Councilmember Abrams,
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco,
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz,
Yes.
Mayor Bublak.
Yes, passes 5-0, and now we'll get into some proclamations and presentation. Okay, let's start with Golden Valley Centers. All right. Come on up. Sure, come on. And your name? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, this is a certificate of recognition from the Golden Valley Health Centers. On behalf of the residents of our great city, the city of Turlock, City Council recognizes and sincerely appreciates Golden Valley Health Centers for over 50 years of high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventative health care. So I would like to give you the opportunity to speak and maybe tell them a little bit about you guys and why you're so successful.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Alou Ceballos. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for Golden Valley Health Centers. National Health Center Week presents a great opportunity to celebrate community health centers, which cater to 1 in 5 people in the state of California. And Golden Valley Health Centers is actually one of the biggest ones in the state of California. We have a network of over 45 clinics in Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin counties. And we serve over 145,000 patients. And here in Turlock, we actually have 4 locations that provide primary care services to Turlock residents. And we actually have an urgent care on West Monte Vista, which we just expanded our hours of operation. So now you could be seen on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. if you ever get injured doing some recreational activities.
Like baseball?
Yeah. And in partnership with the city of Turlock, we hope to stay committed to make high-quality healthcare accessible to Turlock residents. And with that,
Would you want to introduce any of your...
yes. You guys want to come in and introduce yourselves?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Melinda Marshall. I'm the Chief Operations Officer with Golden Valley Health Center. I've actually been with Golden Valley 35 wonderful years of the 50 years, and it's just awesome working for this organization. And I opened up the first clinic here in Turlock, assisted in it, and so I'm very happy that we are here, been great partners, and just appreciate all the support from you as well so we can do what we do.
Hello, my name is Jesus Valdovinos. I'm one of the center managers for our Modesto locations. I've been with the company for almost 8 years. I started as a medical assistant. Now I'm a manager for our sites.
Hello, Lorena Carrillo Salazar, Director of Operations for the Mid-Region. So I oversee our clinics here in the Turlock area, and I've been with Golden Valley for 13 years.
Hello, my name is Anna Haro. I'm the center manager for the series locations, and I have been with Golden Valley for 15 years, and I don't regret any one of them.
Good evening, David Quackenbush from Golden Valley. The only thing I would add to Alou's comments is we are going to be building a new site on Colorado Avenue near the hospital on land that we already own, and we look forward to building the site, bringing more jobs to the community, and working closely with all of you. Your staff, by the way, have already been great, so we appreciate looking forward to that opportunity.
Let's give them a round of applause. center. We have some awesome baseball happening this year. So let's start with the 10U All-Stars. Who's the coach and coaches, manager? Come on up. Let's get it. And how about if all the ones that played in 10s stand up here while we do this, and then we'll do a team picture? Turlock team. Come on, John. Who's representing? It's all you.
Brian, you want to do this? You're the manager.
Come on. Oh, yeah. The buck stops here.
Things you got to do as a manager.
Right. All right, you guys the ones that beat Amador, yeah?
Yes.
All right, okay, so I got to go out there and throw my first pitch ever as a mayor, and I did okay, right? All right. It was decent. Oh, ouch. You're out of here. So we have a certificate of recognition for your group and your guys. We're presented by our whole council. And the city of Turlock just recognizes and congratulates you on winning the District 3 and Section 6 championships, earning a spot at the state tournament and taking 5th place. That's amazing. Let's give them a round of applause first.
Well, thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. I just want to say that it's a real honor to represent the community of Turlock, the Turlock American Little League, and all these great, wonderful kids and all these great supportive parents. We want to say thank you for coming out to every single game, being there from start to finish, getting the kids there on time, just really showing your support. It does mean a lot. And you guys want to add anything, John, Donnie? Sure. Yeah. All right, come on.
Brian did a good job of covering that, the thank yous for our team, but I will tell you guys, we have a great group of kids, both on and off the field. Off the field, I couldn't tell you how many times parents from the surrounding areas thanked us for having well-behaved kids. And it stems from the community as well as the background of our parents and the support from the Turlock American Little League. Building on that, we have a really good group of ball players here. Yes, we took 5th in the state in Northern California, over 200 teams out of the state, something like that. And we have a team that we can build on. So I look forward to the 11-year-old year for them and possibly their 12-year-old year too as well. So thank you.
And now, 11-year-olds, we got the manager and coaches and the players up here, please. I know, where you been, Ian Osborne? Is it everybody? You sure?
That's here tonight.
All right, I understand. School's starting. Okay, so again, we're super proud of our baseball players, and we anticipate them going off to colleges with big-time money scholarships. Just let us know about it. And the city just wants to recognize you and congratulate you on winning District 73 and Section 6 in championships, earning a spot at the state tournament and taking 4th place. So a round of applause, please.
My name's Tommy Watterson, and I was honored to be the manager of these boys this year, the 11U All-Stars. It was a great ride we had this summer, and couldn't have done it without all of the community support that this town brings. I'd like to thank all of the community members, like Brian, just echoing what Brian said. A lot of the sponsors for our field at Turlock American Little League, I'd like to thank them as well for their sponsorship, making our facilities nice. And then just thank you to the parents of these kids for the opportunity to coach them. It's a blessing and a pleasure for sure. Look forward to seeing what you guys do next year at your 12-year-old year, for sure. Want to add something?
Yeah, my name's Aaron Hackler. I'm one of the other coaches with Tommy. I just want to say thank you to the kids. Had a great group of kids. They could play. We didn't select position players. We selected athletes. And all these guys got along. Everybody had each other's back, no matter what was going on in the game. So I want to thank the parents for that. That's a huge support for the coaching staff, to be able to know that we can put them anywhere and they'll succeed. And that was our biggest goal, was to teach these guys to succeed and get along as teammates to be better community members. So I just want to thank everybody and thank the community. Thanks, guys.
You're free. You're free. Right? I'll wait for a second. I don't want to.
Mr. Cortez, you're gonna report on that little league invasion? You're gonna report on the little league invasion at City Hall?
He can't even hear you.
They're so cute. It's all right.
All right. Wait just a little bit longer.
Chop, move it or lose it. No, I'm just kidding.
They're so cute. I know, right? All right. Well, that was fun.
Where's Miss Maris?
She's sick.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not happening tonight.
Okay.
So we're going on to appointment for Measure A, Citizen Oversight Committee, and I would like to nominate Linda Gatton for this assignment.
Second.
She's not here, no. Couldn't make it. You have a second, but I guess that was a motion. Yes, thank you. Okay, we have a motion second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. Congratulations, Ms. Gatton. All right, now, this is time set aside for members of the public to directly address us on items of public interest that have subject matter. I do have some cards here, so Curtis? Always. You dress the part, I figured why not?
Oh, good job, Curtis. Put that microphone up, sweetheart.
This is my first time doing this, but
I hope it's the last time, because that's terrible,
What?
what you're going to tell us.
I know.
Just a second, let him make sure the microphone's on.
I don't think it's on.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go.
All right.
I work at a baseball park. I've been doing it since I was 13, and I'm 41 now. That's a long time. I don't know when it happened, but our flag got torn, or someone burnt it. It's a 3x16. So now I have to retire it. I have to give it to these guys.
Yep.
And we just got it. And it was up Tuesday, and it was on the ground Saturday, just like that.
Oh, we don't throw that on.
Yeah,
No,
I know. That's just how we found it. One of our members at our baseball park found it like that, burnt. So,
Have we gone out and fixed the?
no.
Okay.
How much are they?
Well, it's a work order too, because I believe there's some issues with it.
Yeah, the
going
whole
up now?
pole got burnt, the string, the whole hooks, everything. So it's just out there with nothing on it.
Curtis, any idea how much it costs to replace that flag?
Well, I got this donated.
I'll split it with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll go to VFW and get them to,
I've called them, they can't.
well,
They
they
have,
could, if we buy it from them, they'll get it.
Okay.
They did that one, so that's
yeah.
fair.
So,
We'll see what we can do.
I'll bet you.
We'll replace it.
okay,
We'll
thank you.
replace it.
Flashing funds.
I didn't know that was
Thank
gonna
you,
happen,
Curtis.
but I'll do it.
Okay.
To stand up for the flag.
Yeah,
Any day of
thank
the
you.
week.
We'll
So,
get back with you and figure out how we can do it, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'll have us reach out.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you.
So I give it to you now.
Okay, John? Yeah, go ahead.
Whatever you wanna do.
I wanted to bring up an issue. It's not a big issue or anything like that, but it's about water meter readings. Now, I don't know if most of you realize that you can go online from your city of Turlock thing and look at your daily water use, your monthly and your past and all that kind of good stuff. Now, you get a total bill at the end in the month, but you can go and look at that. Now, the reason I look at it once a month is I go in there to see if I have any leaks. It's real simple because 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning shouldn't be nothing going in there and whatever. So I just do that. One of the problems I had is back in May, I had huge, for me, bill. One day I had 7,200 gallons, and the next day I had 4,500 gallons. Well, I mean, you can add it up, multiply it, and whatever, and I had no idea what it was. But, by looking at that, I knew there was a problem, but it went away. I don't know how it went away, but see, I have 20 irrigation valves in my yard, and so I have no idea, but at least I found out that there was something wrong, and somehow it fixed it, maybe an open valve or something like that. What I hope we can do in the future with the water meter readings is not just do it once a month, because they just update it. I'm still waiting. Once a month, when the bill comes out, they update the website, and you can go online and find out what your water usage is and all that kind of good stuff. But what I would like to see is that somehow bringing this into the future, that every one of you can use this. Because if you're away for the weekend and you get a water line break or something like that, it would be nice to get a text that somehow you got, whatever. But it's just like going to the bank or your checking account or your credit card account. They put limits on there and say, hey, if you get a text if you got a charge over $100 or whatever it might be. Well, somehow, hopefully, we can bring it into the future so that people can use this in case there is a problem and not have to wait a month or whatever. And just, at the very least, update it, as more frequently than they can, than once a month. It would really help out. Thanks.
Milt?
Good evening, council staff and Turlock citizens. Milt Treeweiler. Sometimes I get so discouraged. What's happening to humanity? This is not the beautiful Turlock that I grew up in. We've forgotten we have brains. We've forgotten how to use our brains. Today, education and science has given us so much good and factual information to use. But too many people are living in a world of myth, folklore, and anecdotal information. For instance, the plight in District 2. We are ignored. We don't even have our own council member. On August 1st, just 1 week ago, I came back from Costco at 11:50 a.m. in the morning. I went to my kitchen to wash my hands. I had no water. There was no running water, and it lasted for 3 hours. I've lived in District 2 for 50 years. And this has never happened before. We've always had a notice posted on our doors that the water will be shut off between this time to this time. I contacted my neighbors. The same answer. No one was told about this planned water shutoff, even though the road was shut down a couple of days before. This is not the beautiful Turlock we once had. This is not good. We can do better, and we must do better. Got a little time? I have a story. There was a burglar who broke into a house, and as he was picking up an iPad, he heard someone saying, "Jesus is watching you." He was startled. He froze in his tracks. He looked around the room with his flashlight, and in the corner there was a parrot. And he said angrily, "Did you say that?" Parrot said, "Yep, just trying to warn you." The burglar said, "Warn me? Who are you?" Parrot said, "My name is Moses." The burglar was puzzled and said, what kind of crazy people would name their parrot Moses?" And the parrot said, "The same people who named their Rottweiler, 150-pound Rottweiler, Jesus." Thank you.
Okay. I have no other cards. Is there anyone wishing to speak? You had it for an item specific. I'm sorry. Did I read it wrong?
Yeah, no, it was just.
For downtown? For the 8B? No? Oh, okay.
It's just general.
My apologies. Go ahead.
Okay,
And then Ron.
Good evening, everyone. Lori Smith, downtown business owner. Last Thursday, we had 2 blocks of businesses that had to lock their doors with customers inside because of a drug-induced guy running around crazy. He was smoking a crack pipe in a store's front doorway. He exposed himself in the alley, urinating. He then started running around East Main, going to businesses, yelling and shaking their doors. I was escorting a customer to her car. He came running, yelling at us. She had to run and jump in her car, and I had to run to my store and lock the door. He continued this in a 2-block area where fortunately he was eventually arrested for a prior warrant. How do you think that looks to our customers? Here are 2 recent posts on social media. Quote, "Unfortunately, we quit frequenting downtown business because of these reasons. It's sad because there are good places down there to eat and shop. Even though it's not the business's fault, I don't feel comfortable and have been walking down the sidewalk and been confronted by transients. We will go as far as to drive 2 hours just to have dinner in peace," unquote. And a second comment, quote, "I found leaving Turlock and shopping in Sutter Creek and Jackson is more pleasant than Turlock. We even found some good food and quality people without all of the homeless bleep here," unquote. It's proof that we're losing our customers. I lost count, but I believe we've had at least 20 fires in the downtown. 1 fire caught on camera showed a person carrying a blanket. Businesses have had to pay for new garbage cans, new wiring, and cleanup. After a fire with an explosion, Central Station had to close for part of the day, loss of revenue, and close one of their dining cars for an extended time to make repairs, again, expenses to the businesses. Yes, there are transients all over Turlock, but if they are in Lowe's, Rayleigh's, Target's property, those property owners can do something because it's private property. We don't have that luxury. We do know that we are just one part of the city. We do not think we are special, but we are a unique community versus other parts of Turlock. We have a dense area of businesses that are near the services. We have a lot of public spaces and parks in our area. We have a lot of events and gatherings downtown where people linger. Our circumstances are unique and unlike other parts of the city. Please, please, please listen to our pleas for help. Our safety and our livelihoods are at stake. Thank you.
Ron?
Good evening. Please pull consent item 5B, I'm sorry, 5D, as in dog. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I'm not as prepared as I usually am. Okay, at the February 22nd, 2022 council meeting where the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee report was given, Councilmember Larson stated, I want to know if we're going to be able to articulate measurables to the public. Councilmember Moniz responded, my report makes reference to going to outside independent evaluators if we need to, because it's my goal, as long as I'm sitting in this seat, we're keeping tabs on every aspect of this plan. Because if the minute we don't, and the minute we don't watch something, is going to go by the wayside. That's the last thing we want to happen here. There's been far too much put out for this to let it fail. Then Jeffrey Lewis stated, the responsibility for people like me and my colleagues is to come back with a return on investment. If you spend $350,000, the return on your investment is tenfold, fourfold, or zero. I have a physical responsibility to make sure I come back and explain what works. At the December 2022 council meeting, Jeffrey Lewis also said, Legacy Health Endowment and the City of Turlock have been having conversations about the issue of the homeless population. Legacy Health Endowment offered to assist the city by convening various organizations that lead the homeless charge in Turlock to figure out if we can build a sustainable single strategy. From a timing perspective, we expect to launch in January. We'll have conversations over the next couple of days with our homeless organizations. My goal is to come back before City Council at least once a month to report on where we are and to keep you fully informed. This will probably be the most transparent process you have ever seen, because that's how we have to operate. And the success of this program is built on that transparency. So my question is, when are we going to get these promised monthly reports? Because we haven't gotten a single one. And also, going all the way back to the beginning of the year, I've been asking for the measurables from the investments that we've made in transitional housing. So when are we going to get those reports? Thank you.
Anyone else who did not fill out a card?
Good evening. If we could, from the consent calendar, pull item 5G as in girl and 5H, I'd appreciate it. Wayside Avenue. Did a great job of repaving that thing. It is a beautiful road. Now my question is, what's the city going to do to slow down the speeds? Because you have a very wide boulevard now that is pool table smooth. And there's a speed limit of 35 in there, and I'll bet you before the end of the year, you're going to see people going 50 miles an hour down that road. And I would suggest we have a city engineer, someone start looking at what they're going to do. And please, for goodness sakes, don't put in speed bumps. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. I feel like I come up here and I'm a broken record, and I think many of us feel that way. Turlock is the second largest homeless in Stanislaus County. Empire is the third homeless population. They don't have, it appears, any kind of jurisdiction or the law enforcement. I just question why there are so many homeless in Empire, and why do we have so many homeless in Turlock? And when is the accountability from the elected going to occur? Because you keep telling us that we're going to see some results, and we're not seeing what the results that we're seeing are just devastation on our community. And I know I've talked about Malibu, and I still question, and I want to know, where does it say in the Boise decision that we in Turlock have to provide a bed? Why can, in Malibu, California, they are taking the homeless and they're providing alternative sleeping locations, 20 miles, and yet that question has never been answered. Why in San Diego, California right now are they enforcing a no camping ordinance? When are we going to start enforcing the ordinances in our community? You keep telling us that once we have enough beds and we have the state of emergency, it appears that we're still paying for the beds in Stanislaus at the fairgrounds. We should have enough beds to enforce our municipal code. So I'm asking you, please present a plan to the citizens of the community where we have a municipal code enforcement that we have to honor, and that the homeless, the mental drug addicts should have to honor as well. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Hi, Becky Ariano. It's nice to see everybody. I just wanted to request that we fund the grants that were promised, I think, back in May for the business owners, just to piggyback what Lori had said. Our Christmas season is coming up. It had been discussed that since the money was not put into the RAD card again, that they would do some sort of grants or community building with those funds. So as a business owner downtown, I know Lori could reiterate, we could use those funds to have a better Christmas season for all of our patrons. So I'm asking and requesting that it be put on for the next council meeting. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll help you. Thank you.
Who else? It's you? You're gonna do it? You're gonna do it?
Okay, I address all of you. Mayor Bublak, City Council, Police Chief Hedden, my friend. I'm just, all I hear is all of the help for all of the homeless. I tried to get all this written down properly, but I've been dealing with my daughter in the hospital in Modesto. They can't get the hydrocodone for her pain because there's no hydrocodone around because of the addiction of people and other issues. And my son-in-law was in the emergency room, and he said it was full of the homeless. And people seem to think that there's no help out there for the homeless. And there's a lot of help. There's mental help. There's help for getting off addictions, for rehab, for everything. And yet people seem to think if they throw out boxes of pizzas, I read on Facebook, and they just do a lot of stuff to feed people and leave them in the condition they are. They're not helping by leaving the people in the condition they are. All it's doing is destroying our country. We have kids growing up in a world that our parents would be appalled if they knew we were allowing this to happen to the world that they left for us to watch over. There's no conscience anymore, no accountability, no respect for the police officers. Future generations is bleak unless things get turned around. The homelessness is out of control, and with the help of the enablers, We Care, and Gospel Mission and all of it, I can see trying to help them, but help them get back on their feet. Don't just keep giving them air conditioning, and don't give them the movies and the food, and and then you try to come to a city council meeting and you have to walk over them laying in the streets and stuff and on the sidewalk, and I'm just fed up. I'm just really fed up with all the enabling that goes on, because that's not the answer to this issue. It's rehab for the addicted who want to be helped, and for the mentally ill. I've been experienced through friends and stuff. There's a lot of help out there. And I'm just tired of it, I guess. I had a bunch of stuff written down. Free phones. They don't have to get a job there. They can sleep in the parks. They can use the parks for their toilets, for their drugs, and everything. I'm just tired of it all. Thank you.
Understood. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Mary Jackson. I'm one of the enablers. I've done it for the last 18 years and will continue to do so. We feed at We Care once a month with a group of people. And we did it before when we had B Street, which we were given $3 million from HUD, as I like to talk about all the time, because it was a foolish notion not to take that money. But I digress because I only have 3 minutes. I'm first going to talk about the positive experiences I've had with our police department. When we were out of town for a little while and we came back, and people were driving 50 miles an hour down Johnson, which is a main artery to go to Julian and Turlock High School. And Sergeant Watson had a trailer put out that asked people to slow down, and was out there this morning, which was great, because Tuesdays, the sales yard day is even worse with the people driving fast. And I'm appreciative of Chief Hedden, and our school superintendent are going to send out a message, I believe, to parents in the community about slowing down for school starting next Monday. I also called because there was a car that was in front of someone's house I know. I dropped my daughter off at soccer at Pittman. I came back almost 2 hours later, and the car was there, and it just made me nervous. And so I'm just very appreciative of our police officers and their fast response. I do take into account, we have a navigation center, and there are people using it every single day. And if you haven't been in there, have all of you been in there? If you haven't, then you need to go. I've been in at least 4 times. I walk downtown in the mornings after I take my girls to school, and I don't see what some of the business owners see, and I'm sorry that they have to experience that. But the biggest problem I have within our homeless is that we don't have a safe place for camping or transitional housing, or what's called small houses. We were outside of the University of Oregon's, Austin Stadium, where the Ducks play, which is, I don't know how many millions of dollars Phil Knight from Nike has given them. And right next door, I took a photo and almost got teary. There are about 20 to 30 small houses. So don't worry, I'm going to send you that photo and how much it costs and all that. But people are not going to use, in the heat, a cooling center at the transportation center. Why? Because instead of going to Mass one Sunday when it was 104 for the 3rd or 4th day in a row, we went out and passed out cold water and Otter Pops and asked people if they were using that. And they're not going to walk a mile with all their stuff in the heat. So we need to have something downtown. Either the navigation center needs to be open on the weekends or later in the evenings, or We Care, something. The library usually fills in, and luckily they're going to have more hours. But I think we can do better as a community. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's close public comment and move on to motion waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. Consent calendar, there is a request for item D. David, G. George, and H. Henry to be polled independent. Is there a motion?
I thought there was
B.
As amended. No, he said D. David.
Okay.
D, G, and H. Motion to approve is amended.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yep.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes. All right, D, David, it's a,
Bridegroom.
well, let's go ahead and just have Mr. Schultz come up real quick. Rejecting all bids submitted for the Pedretti Park lighting improvements.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor said, this item is asking to reject all the bids submitted for the project of Pedretti Park lighting. This project scope includes replacing all the lighting at Pedretti Park with new LED lights on all 5 fields, replacing all existing wiring, which is aging, and replacing one damaged pole foundation. This bid solicited 6 different bidders. The lowest bid was $459,421.
Can you just stop for a second? Let's wait until he's done on this conversation.
I'm sorry, I'll start over. Our lowest bid out of 6 was $459,421, and our highest bid was $875,000. After staff reviewed these bids, they determined that bidder 1 and 2 could not be selected due to each bid not being fully responsive to the bid proposal requirements. Out of the desire to secure a responsive bid proposal and a competitive price, staff recommends that the City Council reject all bids received and re-advertise. Staff feel very confident if we do re-advertise this. Not only will we get all the original bidders, but we'll probably also pick up some others that had some interest in that project. And I just kind of want to go back and talk about, back on February 22nd of 22, we had an item that came through regarding Pedretti Park lighting. At that point, we were asking for money for the design and talking about the price of the project with the sole source bid of $850,000. If you recall that. And I wish Cheryl was here. I don't know her last name, but she stood up and she spoke about the cost of the project. And I let her know that staff would continue to work and do our due diligence to try to find the lowest price we can. And with this opportunity, if we can get another bid at $450,000, we'd be saving an incredible amount of money on this project. I'd be happy to answer questions.
So is the TID funding going to still be available, or don't they have to process it in a yearly fashion?
It will be, as long as we finish before the end of this calendar year. We plan on putting the bid out this week, if it's approved to rebid it, and work will start in November, which coincides with the end of our fall season, which is when the work would be done anyway, when the park would be empty. Project's not dependent on weather, so there shouldn't be any delays once they start working on the
No
project.
electrocutions?
No power, hopefully, until they get it all plugged in.
So if everything goes as you see it, us approving this, when are they going to be all up?
When will the project be completed?
When will the project be completed?
Before December 31st. That'd be
Any
the-
other questions
That
for-
that would be the deadline, hopefully into November.
I have one. What took us so long to get the bid out?
Absolutely. I said this project has been in the making for a long time, and this isn't any different than some of the other projects where we've missed major milestones for getting projects done. Just 13 months ago, our Public Works Department Engineering Division had 3 engineers for the entire city. One was dedicated solely to roads, and the other 2 were working on all the other projects that we had. The engineer who's working on this project, just for some relatable information, in the last 2 years, his other projects included Headstrom, Golden State, Lander, Linwood, Southwest Quadrant, which is 5 streets, signal synchronization, slurry seals, upcoming pagers, which has also been pushed several times to Columbia Pool, and Montana Park. The workload that we have on our current engineers is very difficult. There's some good news. Since that time, we have been successful in hiring. We've hired 4 new people, a project engineer, or a project coordinator, engineering assistant, part-time senior civil engineer, and a city engineer. In their first year, obviously, they take a lot of work from the existing engineers to help get them up and trained in the specifics on how we do business. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train this time, as we try to hire these. But yeah, just the lack of staffing has been very difficult to get just a ton of projects done. And honestly, all the projects have been a priority for somebody. And when we prioritize all of them, none of them become a priority at the end of the day. So staff are working really hard to get this done. So I'm very hopeful that we'll get this project rebid with better bid prices and qualified contractors.
in the two bids that were rejected due to they weren't fully compliant.
They were responsible, but not responsive. They had a couple errors that they
They had a
made
couple
that
errors.
they're probably gonna fix
Okay.
prior to
So those
rebidding.
two will probably come back.
We would
and-
assume that they would
and
rebid that.
Our best guess is that they will come in at their same price or at
May-
least lower than.
They potentially could be
I'm-
lower. I'm assuming people will be looking for new vendors for lights.
Okay,
Um,
because I hate to put it out and then have everybody go above the third highest
Yeah.
bidder.
It's a potential, but I don't feel that's the case. I feel like they're gonna come in with a competitive bid. And it's probably a little more than 100,000 potential we could save on a project that started off at 850, so.
And then-
If we don't take the opportunity to try to do that, I think it would be,
Yeah,
it would be
wasting
poor on our
money.
side.
And then Turlock Irrigation District's grant was about 150,000?
150, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
No other questions? All right, let's open it. Ron, you asked the question?
Yeah, so this was something that was the need for upgrading the lighting was noted as far back as 2014. Okay, there was a study done according to the February.
22nd?
Everything happened on February 22nd, 2022. 2022. Everything happened.
Good omen.
Yeah, or a bad omen, something or another. In that staff report, it talked about a study that had been done in 2014, which means that it was probably a problem before then. It also said that the money from TID had to be spent in 2022, so that was a concern of mine. But now you're saying that it doesn't have to be, it can be spent this year, which is good. In general, I think that this is a good time to point out what I think is a general problem. There are a couple general problems. I think you need to have follow-up. There's not enough follow-up to where the council approves a project. You were actually given in the 2022, it says staff estimates having biddable plans by June of 2022, awarding the contract in August and starting construction in October. We should have, I believe, at least quarterly, a report from the city manager about the projects that you've approved, the timelines of when they were supposed to go out to bid, come back to the council, the work actually be done, and you actually see, did we meet that criteria or we did not? And then if they did not meet that criteria, ask them why they did not meet it. Okay? I'm not accusing, them of sitting up on the roof and just sitting themselves all day long, okay? As Director Schultz has pointed out, and I noted the engineer, and I also know all the different projects, or at least some of the different projects he's been working on. But again, that's something that the council, I believe, needs to know, because it's easy for the council, and I'm saying generically, to say, well, we want this done, and we want this done, and we want this done, and we want this prioritized. And the council can end up just throwing a whole bunch of things on staff that they're then not able to accomplish, and then you end up with a year's delay. And then also, in terms of infrastructure, I believe this is part of the infrastructure. I believe you need to have a separate infrastructure thing that comes before the council, not have it separated into the independent directorships so that you can actually properly maintain our infrastructure. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
I'm afraid I had to take a call there, and I didn't hear all of your things. So if I'm saying something you already talked about, just tell me to go sit down. Bob Puffer, Turlock, California. I guess, from what I understand, what bothered me here was in February 22nd of last year, this was approved, and it was my feeling that it was ready to bid that week. I mean, you were just looking for the approval to bid. And now I'm hearing that, okay, there was engineering that still had to be done. And now I'm hearing that before we can bid at this time, there's more engineering to be done. Shouldn't we wait until we have all the engineering done, and isn't that part of the bid process? When you give these guys, all the engineering is done, and if we're gonna rebid it, shouldn't we be able to just throw out a copy of the packet we had last year and say, rebid it, we need it by September 1st? Thank you.
Just to update Mr. Puffer, as I spoke about, we were struggling with staffing levels at that time. We had 3 engineers for the city, and that kind of what delayed the project as we picked up other priorities along the way.
Bill?
As I said previously, sometimes I get so discouraged. This is the way this council has gone for almost 3 years now, and it's a disgrace to everyone. First of all, we lost 12 or more excellent employees who were outstanding employees. We've had a lack of employees in this city for almost 3 years now. And even tonight is a perfect example. Eric explains to us very clearly what's needed. And then we have someone on the council who says, well, if it's over the 3rd bid, we can't take it. This council has been 100% negative, and they just don't understand reality and facts. They just haven't got their act together. And that's the honest truth. They haven't got their act together. And that's got to change. Turlock is a good city, was always a good city. Turlock is no longer a good city because you hear every week or 2 weeks people talking about what's wrong with Turlock. That's not what we should be hearing. We should be hearing about what's right with Turlock. And that involves everyone here, and it's because we don't have enough staff. I talked last time about Dale Goodwin. He's trying to do the work of 3 people. Every job he's doing is super complex. It's not something you can just let anyone do. It takes expertise, it takes time, and we're just negative. There's a negative vibe on this council. There's a negative vibe on this council. And it's so sad for us Turlock citizens to have to see this. And I'm hopeful that we can get some change, we can wake up. We've got brains, folks. We've got to start using our brains. That's what it's all about. You can't fake things out. You can't fake things out. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak regarding this? Okay, closing public comment, bringing it back.
Motion to approve 5D.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes on 5-0. The next item pulled is item G, George, and that's agreement with Turlock, Joe Gomes and Sons for fuel. Milt, did you pull this?
Mr. Puffer and Mr. Treeweiler did.
You guys want to come on up? We'll open it to public and get your questions.
Yes, as I was looking through the consent calendar, I came to 5G and I thought, whoa, $1 million a year for fuel. Has this situation ever occurred before? What's going on here? And then what is the price if, okay, I did want to read one little statement in here. It's the last part. If the event, in the event that fuel pumps are temporarily out of service at the primary location, staff may obtain fuel at multiple locations within the city limits. So then again, my question goes, has this situation ever occurred before where we've run out of fuel at the primary location? And if it did occur, do we still have to pay the price that we would normally be paying, or are we paying a higher price? So then I want to go on to some general talk, and this is, the facts show us that we are burning fossil fuels, gasoline, and diesel, and propane. We're releasing carbon dioxide, or CO2. This is where you've got to get the facts right. They're going into our atmosphere, and I don't care how many people don't believe, in man-made climate change because of burning of fossil fuels. And something that does kind of irritate me is when I see one of our buses going around town that says clean burning propane. Propane, when it burns, produces two things. It produces water and it produces carbon dioxide. It's the carbon dioxide that's causing this warming blanket around our planet, the entire Earth, our Earth has never been hotter than it is today, or this last month, in 2,000 years. And here's the other thing that science and education can tell us. It can tell us that there is more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere than there's been in the past 1 million years. And people are not getting, they're not understanding this. They don't want to believe this. It's living in a dream world, not using your brain. You've got to start using your brains. It's the only way we're going to survive. Our descendants are going to be suffering because of the decisions we're making. Thank you.
Bob?
Gasoline right now is $4.50 a gallon for regular in Turlock, maybe $4.60. And there was talk earlier this summer that the price could have spiked at $6 a gallon in Turlock, and I have no doubt that when the changeover to winter fuel starts, that price will be right there. I guess my question is, well, two statement and a question. My question is, are we leaving ourselves enough room at $1 million a year to cover our fuel bills? Or is it going to be like you had to do the last couple of years and come back before council and ask for more money? The second thing is, this would be a good time for the city of Turlock to look over their vehicles and say, do we really need this many vehicles? If you get rid of vehicles, you'll be more efficient with the vehicles you have left, and you will use less fuel and accomplish two things: save us money and help clean the air. And that's just something that can be done with each department manager. Just look over and say, how many vehicles we have that are just sitting there, and do we need them? Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I do think that's an interesting question. How many vehicles do we have? I suspect most of them are for municipal services, maintenance, park maintenance. We also have the big trucks that I see. I don't know exactly what they are, but they're for the underground stuff. Boy, that sounds really stupid. Versus, cars. How many cars do we actually have? Versus, shall I say, work trucks and pickups, like for maintenance, park maintenance. Sometimes you see just the pickup itself. Sometimes you see it towing a trailer with heavy equipment in it, other things like that. It'd be interesting to know if you were going to try to evaluate moving away from regular gas and diesel to electric or something like that, how many vehicles you have, how many miles they travel on average per day. I suspect that some of them you might be able to replace with electric, and maybe you could work something out with TID, but I kind of think it's probably not that many. And then in terms of global warming and things like that, I will remind the viewers that back in the 1970s, the people who today are screaming that we're going to have global warming were also screaming about how we were going into an ice age. And they were saying what we needed to do was to create a whole bunch of CO2 and pump it into the atmosphere to create a greenhouse effect to keep us from having a global ice age. Matter of fact, they were talking about going up to the North Pole and putting ash on it so that instead of reflecting sunlight, it would absorb sunlight, okay? So, you know, that's some of the things that they were talking about back then, and now they're talking about, you know, kind of the flip side now. So take everything with a grain of salt, is all I would have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's close public comment. Can you answer some of the questions, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, Council members. Just kind of high level of what we're looking at, the market itself, right? So going through the budget process is primarily one of the key items we talked about. We've increased our budget to make sure we compensate. So budget-wise, we stand to where we're projecting to be. We estimate there could be an increase, but that's an estimate, right? Fuel, as everyone knows, is driven by the economy, and as far as internally and externally, as far as international too as well. So there's many factors that drive that economic factor as far as how it's going to go. We budget as best we can to make sure we compensate for the overall. I will say that we're looking at our feet to make sure we're being efficient, but not just that. CARB is going to mandate us to be efficient too as well. So things down the roads legally are going to force us into different avenues in how we do our fueling system, our vehicles as well. You see the fire was impacted recently, and when they're purchased a new vehicle, it has to be compliant. So things of energy efficiencies we're already doing. You have an item on your agenda today for getting a grant, right, for energy efficient vehicles. So city staff recognizes that fuel is a major factor, but we also recognize that we have to change our philosophy in how we treat our fuel, our fleet as well. So that is occurring currently. The fuel pumps. Yes, the fuel pumps do go down. There is a primary location for Gomes and Sons in which we utilize that gives us a better rate. That's why staff is directed to primarily go to that location as much as possible. But it's not just that location as far as how we do things. It's also about logistics, right? Public Works has vehicles that's pulling around trailers. You can't just pull that into an AM/PM distributor. The way the system actually works is, yes, you have a large network of where you can go and get your fueling system. You want to try and go to that primary just so you can get that better rate structure because it is owned by Gomes and Sons, right? That's how you get your discounted rate. So even if it is down, we can have other fueling sources. It may be higher than that, but still we get the benefit of having a full network where we can stay and do what we need to do for our services. Are we leaving enough room? Yes, we are leaving enough room in our budget, which I just closed. I mean, we're compensating for the increase in this contract. Even when I did the analysis, I had sticker shock. This is not a staff report I wanted to bring forward, but it is necessary. We have a contract, we need to mandate it. I will say if it starts to tip towards that $1 million, we'll be looking to do an RFP, regardless of where the contract is, to make sure we stay competitive. That's the best thing we can do to manage the situation, okay?
We have this money in our budget?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the money in the budget?
We do. Within the staff report, it talks about the budgeted line items, and we're budgeting just over $900,000. So yes, for the current contract and the term it works, we're about 2 months left. I'm estimating about just over 800. So we have some play in there to compensate, right? The last thing we want to do is come back for another amendment. We want to keep doing what we need to do. But again, if it gets close to that, we'll have another conversation what that looks like.
How long have we had them?
I think we're in the third year. Yeah, we're in the third year with the contract. And we have 2 to 3 one-year extensions. Well, we've had them for a long time. I'm talking about just the contract.
Rebid. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, no, we've had them for quite some time. Again, as a CFM distributor, it's more beneficial, cost efficient if you have an in-house individual in the actual city limits because you can benefit from the location. So that's why you see that kind of generate. How many trucks do we have? I don't have the totality of the vehicles, but again, we're assessing our fleet. As staff increase, we do increase our fleet. As you know, we just brought in the SRWA. That's another fleet issue we bring in. We're staffing up, but we're also trying to turn out our old vehicles, right? So you're seeing a lot of vehicle purchases coming through the budget process. It's not that we're trying to just spend money and get new vehicles. We like it better. It's about fuel efficiency too as well. Right? You're still driving a Crown Vic versus a newer vehicle. I mean, that's a large difference overall. Just an example, right? Are we going electric? again, staff is constantly looking at fueling opportunities, especially in the transit world, where there's a large push to make sure that we do become economically inclined in how we do those things. So have we seen this before? No, this is the largest number that I've seen in the current market. We've seen a spike. I mean, that's not abnormal, right? But we haven't seen it teeter down. That's kind of our issue at this point. So we'll continue to monitor like we do now and make sure we budget accordingly. I think I got them all unless there's any other questions.
Any other questions? Yes. So Isaac, this contract has not been out for RFP in 3 years?
Correct.
Okay, and how many locations do we have in city limits for our city vehicles to get fuel at?
I think I assessed it one time. There's at least 15 to 20. Because of the network they use, they're using Valeros, AM, PMs, and different sites that they can actually go to.
Okay, and so do you know how many times the pumps have been down in the last year?
I haven't tracked them. I mean, I see the emails come in. Recently, I haven't seen it go down recently. They had a little bit of troubles maybe about a year back where we're constantly getting emails saying they were going down. But I haven't recently seen that as an issue. Maintenance is always a factor. They're going to go down for maintenance. But I think from what I've seen as far as the emails that come out, because we all get those emails, they've gotten more efficient and they haven't been going down.
And how long are we re-upping for on this? Is this just a year?
This is not a re-up in the term of the contract. This is the third year of the contract. We will renew for the next term. So I think we have 3 one-year extensions after this.
So we're gonna look at this in another 12 months?
We're going to look at it every year during the budget process regardless. It's one of our major factors as far as it impacts our budget. We have to look at it.
Okay, I just wanna see this go back out to RFP because 3 years is too long.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely assess that.
Okay.
So you making a motion to do it for 1?
Can I do that?
I don't know. Can she do that?
Yeah, I mean,
Would I hurt your feelings if I did?
no.
'Cause I would really like to.
Question?
Yeah, well, I've just got a question. Is there a benefit to a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract or a 3-year contract with 1, 2, 3,
So there's always, the benefit to a multi-year contract is locking in rates, right? Unfortunately, with this contract, it's a little bit different because you're gonna have fluctuations of the market to drive it. Any fuel distributor has a certain profit margin that they gotta play with, and they play with that margin as it goes throughout the market and it increases. So it'll fluctuate as you go up and down what that profit margin normally looks like. When I was in the private, I was actually in this industry, so I know quite a bit about it. So yes, so there is different play in different markets.
I mean, isn't that why we're adding $1 million to this right now?
we're not adding $1 million, it's just that's what our.
It's because of the increase of the value of the contract in which we're doing. So we're increasing to the $1 million because we have a not to exceed of 760,000. We're going to hit 8 as an estimate for this contract year.
How many other local fuel distributors have the options that we currently have? I mean, are there 10 of them in town that can do the same thing?
No, Gomes is the only one that I know is a CFN distributor like that that's in town. Again, you have other fleet networks like a Valero, things of that nature, but it's difficult to get our heavy equipment into those type of sites. You may have a truck stop that you can deal with, but then you pigeonhole yourself into single locations instead of a network, right? Also, we have individuals that go out of town, so they can still utilize these card systems in other cities and even throughout the United States. So CFN network is very common.
Okay, I mean, obviously you've been in the business and you know how it works, and I think, you think we're getting a fair deal?
I think when you did the initial bid, you did. I think, given the market, we're getting close to the end of the initial first term. I think we take a look at it. I mean, it doesn't hurt.
So we can make the motion be that we'll do it at $3.50 a gallon?
Maybe for water, but because water is more precious right now. But so I can try, but I don't think I can get there. So.
Well, what's the will of council?
Motion to approve 5G.
Second. Motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it
Thank you.
passes 5-0. Thank you, Director Moreno. Final readings, there are none, and we're going to take a 5-minute break. Didn't, I apologize.
H was pulled by Mr. Popper.
Yep, go ahead. Come on up, open it to the public. Come on, ask your questions, please. How did I miss that? It's sitting right there.
So I saw this here, and it looks like we're getting close to an agreement with firefighters. And it looks like these measures here are to pay for the increase in the agreement. There were some that some monies were wanting to come out of Measure A fund. And then I looked and saw that it's being paid for base salary increases, insurance increase, and pension increases. And it seems to me that with Measure A was being gone or talked about and voted on and stuff, people said essentially, we don't want to tax ourselves 3/4 of a cent to pay for somebody's retirement or medical benefits. We're having a hard time paying for our own. And I thought that it was mostly the money was to be used for additional new firefighters, not to increase the pay on present firefighters. Probably not the question you thought you'd get, huh?
Anybody
you.
else wishing to speak regarding this item?
In the mornings when I'm having breakfast, I listen to the news a lot. And if you listen to what's going on all over California, firefighters need more money. And if we don't pay our firefighters the money we need, even if we have to raise their benefits and their salaries, we're going to be in trouble. We're not going to have firefighters, and we're not going to have police officers, because they're going to go to another city that's paying them more money. So it's not like we have a lot of choices on this. I think we need to get the thing done and finished and over with, and we need to pay our firefighters competitive wages so that they can live, and have a living wage. So I really want to see that done for both the fire and the police. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's close the public comment and bring it back for dialogue. Will you answer that first, the question that Bob asked?
Yes, so as far as Measure A, I'm going to defer to Finance Director Moreno.
Well, I'll start it for you. It's general tax, not a specific tax, so there was no obligatory, but go ahead.
Sure. So Measure A, obviously, it is a general tax, so there's no restrictions on how it's utilized. There was a lot of conversation on public safety. So to talk about Measure A and what it's done, just for the fire services, foreign positions, they actually allocated about 6 new positions. Largely because of Measure A. So Measure A, when you look at it regardless, from an MOU perspective and a contract negotiation, you have to take on the totality of the salaries, right? So salaries and benefits, healthcare, that's all part of the whole thing. Whenever you increase the salary, your pension amount goes up because it's based off a percentage of their salaries. So it's a direct impact overall. So when we're looking at a fiscal impact, we have to gauge the whole thing.
Okay, what is the will of council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram? Yes. Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passed 5-0. Thank you both for that. Again, there are no final readings, and we will take a 5-minute break.
So, yeah, so increase the annual compensation to $1 million. Correct. Contractor. Okay, so that's how much the city spends annually, correct, on gas. Well, contract ended, right? So yes, they can't spend up to a year more.
So 1 million is the cap.
That's correct.
For, what's the year? Fiscal year.
No, it's a contract year.
It's a contract year, which is defined as now.
So the point which is executed is the point where I think it's.
So, and a total amount not to exceed 5.4 million. Okay, so.
So that means, so tell me the contracts that execute all the extensions, that's your not to exceed.
Okay, so the 1 million is per year.
Correct.
For each of, that's the new amount. So the 3-year contract is coming to an end. Or is coming to an end.
So it's got a 3-year base, and then it's got 1 year option. That's what
So where are we now? And you've got,
we're in third year.
they also discovered I have a mold that does press it down on my so each one of these 3 years. Sitting is not good. Is 1 million.
Really bad balance.
Yeah.
So it's only.
You know all about it.
Yeah, I do.
So each of these 3 1-year extension.
So this contract here for contract 3 and the ones forward will all be up to $1 million.
Number 3, and then this one, and this one, and this one will be up to 1 million. And then not to exceed.
All right, we're going to call this meeting back to order.
Not to exceed 5 million. That's correct.
And we don't need him, do we? Yes, we do. I'm sorry, we're not calling you back yet. Hold on. Attorney Rand.
What's going on with what?
There he is. He's back. Oh, that's Rich.
All right, we are calling this meeting back to order. If you'll all take your seats and quit talking. Okay, so item 7, public hearings A, is a landscaping lighting assessment district and all street maintenance benefit assessment areas in the city of Turlock. Any questions for, these has happened a lot of times, I apologize, you guys haven't seen this before, so if you would, please.
Sure. The mayor pretty much covered it. This is the second time we've had this before council, and it is 2 resolutions approving the engineering report for the fiscal year of 2023 through 2024 for all landscape and lighting assessment districts and all street maintenance benefit assessment areas in the city of Turlock, and confirming diagrams, assessments, and ordering the levying and collection of assessments as originally proposed in the fiscal year 2023-24 for all lighting and lighting assessment, all landscape and lighting assessment districts. This annual report allows us to levy the assessments for the following year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Director? Okay, let's open it to the public.
Quite a fun night we're having. Okay, I understand that this engineer's report is for all the assessment districts. And I didn't get a chance to review it. I assume that it shows what the estimated cost will be for each district, because they're all different.
Correct.
Am I correct? Does it also show what the balance was in each district at the current time? And then what the anticipated income will be and what the anticipated expenses will be, so you have an estimate of what will be at the end of that?
I can tell you our estimated income is just under $4.4 million.
I have no doubt that you have the totals
Yeah.
for all of them. How about for each district?
We haven't broken up. I can't tell you them all verbatim. There's 216.
Don't you think that someone who lives in an older district that might have accumulated a lot of cash might be interested in paying less because they have already accumulated cash in the past, as opposed to, and even the newer ones that aren't anticipating any expenses for 3 years or whatever, wouldn't they like to have an idea of what their balance in their district is?
And that's a good question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, let's close public comment, bring it back. Any other comments for that?
I do not have any other comments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, thank you. It passes 5-0. 8A, I will be recusing myself. I am a member of the Opportunity Stanislaus Workforce group, so I don't want anybody to clutter this, so there you go. I'll be back.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, you say something.
No, you did it right.
Good evening, council, staff, members of the public. The item before you tonight is asking council for a motion to approve the payment for the annual investor invoice for Opportunity Stanislaus, the local economic development organization. The city of Turlock has been a member of the Stanislaus Business Alliance, currently known as Opportunity Stanislaus, since 1994. The mission of Opportunity Stanislaus is to improve the economic vitality of Stanislaus County by helping local employers grow, attracting innovative companies to the county, and helping entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. Opportunity Stanislaus created a 5-year plan called Opportunity Stanislaus Next Level Together. This would be the 3rd year the city has been an active participant of the program. With us tonight, we have Mr. Dave White, the CEO of Opportunity Stanislaus, to further discuss the great work that his team has been doing for our city and our region.
Thank you. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. So first, I want to give you our brand
Oh.
for sure.
Handouts, right on.
Pass it down. Well, thank you, everybody, Vice Mayor, members of council, Anthony, for that introduction. Mayor Bublak is actually now a member of our board of directors. She was just elected at our last board meeting. That's the main reason she had to recuse herself. But I'd like to just go through some slides and tell about our wonderful relationship and partnership with the city of Turlock. I've now been here almost 10 years. I came here in end of 2013 to take on the role of CEO of what was then called the Stanislaus Economic Development and Workforce Alliance. In 2016, we changed that organization to become known as Opportunity Stanislaus for the express purpose of getting more private sector participation in the organization. And so, to start with, I want to just show some highlights about the partnership between Turlock and Opportunity Stanislaus. For one thing, Turlock is a major investor in the organization, and you join other entities such as Stanislaus County, the City of Modesto, E&J Gallo Winery, and including in this town, P&F Metals, Associated Feed, Sutter Memorial, Beardland, and Ametis, among others. And we have many investors: Associated Feed, P&F Metals, Blue Diamond Growers, Dairy Farmers of America, California Dairies, Sensient, JKB Living, that many ways, and I'm going to explain that to you now. First and foremost, in 2017, we started a brand new industry-led advanced manufacturing training center called Volt Institute. I think many of you have heard about that. This was a game changer. This was an opportunity to help teach skills to workers that would enable them to qualify for advanced manufacturing jobs. We had one individual from Turlock who came in making minimum wage, and within a year got his certificate and was hired by a local company making $31 an hour with benefits. 2 years later, he was contacted by Tesla and got a job, still lives here, got a job making over 6 figures. So that's the kind of impact that this training center has on individuals' lives, family lives. Now this young man who's in his early 30s is not only in a great career, but he's able to take care of his family, and he's able to buy a car and to put a down payment on a house. And so some of the companies, you'll see many companies take advantage of Volt Institute. Not only do they hire people from Volt, but they also send workers to Volt. And we have an incumbent worker program where we can upskill workers from all these different companies and help them meet the needs of their workforce. 20 years from now, if you go and look at these manufacturing plants, you're going to see a different world. You're going to see a lot of automation. You're going to see even that dreaded word, AI, because it's coming. And we need to be ready for it, and we need to have the skills to be able to participate in that new economy. And that's what Volt Institute's all about. Volt Institute's not just about hard skills in manufacturing, it's also about leadership skills. It's about teaching people to be a frontline supervisor for the first time. Never done that before. It's about teaching executives who are coming up in their company to know how to develop good culture in the company and strategic planning. It's about helping young executives, young workers and supervisors learn critical thinking skills and problem solving. You know, my dad was a military guy, and he drilled that into me as I was a teenager about how important it is when you go to your boss with a problem, just don't go with a problem, go with several solutions. And that's something that's lacking in today's workforce. So Volt is about the whole enchilada. It's about all the things that we have identified that are needful in industry. Now, we don't just make these things up. We get feedback and we get direction from industry to tell us what their problems are, what their challenges are. And then we huddle together as a team and we try to figure it out. And so that's what Volt is all about. In fact, I tell our employers all the time, this is not our training center. This is your training center. We are the stewards of that training center. We also have a phenomenal talent development department. In fact, we work with the city of Turlock, and we work with many cities and many employers about what are the best practices, especially coming out of the pandemic, to help attain and find talent and retain talent. Now, one thing you'll hear about lately, this has been a new phenomenon, people will get hired and then 2 weeks later not even show up to their job and won't even call their employer. And they're resigning from the workforce. It's not what they thought it was going to be. So we have a program for that. But we understand the complexities of today's workforce, and so we have a whole team dedicated to not only helping with recruitment, but providing great tools to our local employers, and it's making a difference. Economic development. Now, a lot of people have all sorts of definitions about economic development. But economic development is really everything I'm talking about. But traditional economic development is our ability to go out and attract new industry, take care of local companies and their expansion needs, but also to go out and attract companies to come here. How many of you were at the Divert groundbreaking? That was great. That was a company that we worked with along with the city of Turlock to attract to Turlock multi-million-dollar investment in the city of Turlock. We were there with Blue Diamond Growers. We were there with Valley Milk, with all our partners to help bring these companies into Turlock to help expand the community. And so we do that. Right now we're supporting Alpha Milk. They have some expansion. Blue Diamond, I mentioned them, Divert, Valley Milk, and so on and so forth. Also retailers. We have a really cool tool called Buxton Psychographics. So if you're a retailer, like I hear all the time from Turlock, oh, we need a Trader Joe's. Well, Trader Joe's has very specific site selection criteria. They want to look at number of rooftops, they want to know your demographics, your income levels, all of that. And when you go across the threshold, you get on their radar. But we have to keep them aware of what's happening in our communities. And so the Buxton tool helps us do that. It helps us to understand what retailers are looking for, and then we're trying to matchmake with them to help them know what's coming. And so last year, Anthony went to the big show in Las Vegas, ICSC. We're going to go together as a team, all cities and Anthony, to go meet those retailers at ICSC and show them these reports. Trader Joe's, you need to be in Turlock. Economic development is also about community projects. Have you ever heard, now some of you are employers, have you ever had a struggle to attract people to this area because they have concerns about the community? They say, oh, it's the Central Valley, it's really hot there. Have you ever heard some? Well, we have to do a good job to make sure we have a community of choice that people want to come to. I loved hearing what people were saying about the homeless. Now, this isn't just a Turlock problem, this is a statewide problem. And it's being discussed by business groups like ours all over the state. There's a lot of frustration out there. I went to a meeting, I went to the CalEd conference. It's an organization for economic development. I'm on the board. And Dee Dee Myers, who is she's the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of GoBiz, gave this wonderful speech talking about how great California is. We're going to be the 4th leading economy, and this was in Los Angeles, by the way. the fourth leading economy. We're going to surpass Germany. And after her speech, a bunch of us went out to lunch. Well, we had to walk over homeless people, and we had to dodge things on the street. And so there is a disconnect going on, even at the highest level. This is not just a Turlock problem, but we're trying to address it on a statewide, business-led, statewide organizations. But we're working on a really cool project, the Turlock Sports Center, where we've identified a site, and we're pushing forward to be able to land that project, which will be an indoor sports center where teams can practice and play, can attract talent, and can attract leagues from all over the state of California. Now I'll go quickly through the last slides. Our Small Business Development Center, Valley Sierra SBDC, these are all the things that we've done for the city of Turlock, as you can see on the screen, during this last year. We served 89 clients. We helped 6 businesses start. We helped create 35 jobs, an increase of sales of over $1 million through the activity that we sponsored and supported. And then finally, we're now taking a position in policy. We're part of the New California Coalition. I sit on the executive board of that organization. And this is an organization made up of business groups from all over the state that are taking a hard look at policy issues like homelessness. And we're working together as business to make sure that our voice is being heard. And we've already had some wins, and we're going to have more wins as we go forward. So I am very optimistic about the future. I'm optimistic about Turlock. I think Turlock is on the right. There are challenges, sure, but every city has challenges. But I feel that there's some great things lying ahead, and I'm very happy to be part of that process. And so now I'll stop talking, and if you have any questions, I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any questions from council? No. Any questions from the audience? No public comment? Anyone? No. We're going to close public comment then, and we'll bring it back. Have a
Second.
first and a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Abram? Yes. Councilmember Bixell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
That's 4-0 and 1 abstention. Kenny Matog, please bring the mayor back.
I would never try for this. I have a direct financial conflict of interest.
All right, then you'll be recusing yourself. Have a good time in the other room. Mess with you.
Oh. You want the name? Yeah. Because I own and operate charity thrift store downtown on Main Street, and that's directly within the jurisdiction of PBID's boundaries.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Your PIN number.
Social security number.
All right, Mr. Sims.
All right. The item before you tonight is asking council to approve a resolution declaring an intent to renew the Turlock Downtown Property and Business Improvement District. Council is also asked to review the draft PBID agreement between the City of Turlock and the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association, TDPOA, and provide feedback. The current Downtown Turlock Property and Business Improvement District agreement will expire at the end of 2023 and will need to be renewed for the years 2024 through 2033, should the city wish the district to continue. The Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association, TDPOA, wish to renew the downtown PBID and have contracted with PBID service provider Civitas to assist the TDPOA in the renewal process. City Council is being asked to undertake 2 actions. The first action is to approve a resolution of intent to renew the downtown PBID. The second action is to approve the proposed management district plan, the plan. The plan names the Turlock Downtown Properties Owners Association as the owners association for the downtown PBID. If the 2 items are approved, assessment ballots will be mailed out to the owners of all property proposed to be assessed within the downtown PBID. Mailing the notice and assessment ballot begins a mandatory 45-day period in which owners may cast ballots. A final public hearing will be scheduled for September 26th, in which council will open the public hearing, receive public comment, and count assessment ballots. If the vote for establishing the district is affirmative, the city council will be asked to adopt a resolution of formation of the district and also approve a P-bid agreement with the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association. While the city council is not being asked to approve the P-bid agreement tonight, once the plan is adopted, there is a statutory obligation of the city to enter into an agreement with the Specified Owners Association, here, the TDPOA. Consequently, city council is requested to review the proposed draft P-bid agreement, attachment D, between the city of Turlock and the TDPOA, and provide comment and feedback to staff and TDPOA. Proposed City of Turlock obligations under the draft agreement are highlighted in gray in Exhibit A, Scope of Services. While there is no immediate fiscal impact, the two items requested for approval tonight commence a chain of events that will lead to significant fiscal impacts to the city that are described in Section 5 of this report. City Council is requested to review these impacts to ensure they are acceptable to the city. I do want to point out there's a green sheet for this item. We had to make a correction for the annual cost of the Helping Hands item on the cost analysis table under fiscal impact. We changed it from $2,500 annually to $30,000 annually. It's a cost of $2,500 per month. The green sheet reflects that change. Also, our Public Works Department was able to obtain a quote for annual pressure washing of $38,235.60 per year. So while looking at the cost analysis table, the to be determined amount for annual pressure washing would be $38,235.60 per year. Staff is available to answer any questions, and we also have with us tonight from the TDPOA, Mr. Travis Regallo, the Executive Director.
Questions for Mr. Sims? Okay. Questions for Mr. Moreno?
Well, we just got these, so it's kind of hard to understand everything on the fly, so I'm not prepared to make any kind of yes or no's tonight for sure. No,
Question? Go ahead.
Just regarding the green sheet, the only difference is the Helping Hands, right? And now we have the bid for pressure washing. Those are the only two things.
That is correct.
So whatever's in our council packet, we're just adding $60,000 a year, approximately.
$68,235.60. Yeah.
And then I don't know if anyone noticed, but on your, in the AP, what we just paid, we paid basically the assessment, the tax assessment, the direct tax assessment of $153,006.54. So we just paid the Downtown Property Owners Association their assessment. So they just got a chunk. I wanted to make sure that everyone realized that there's a big chunk of money they just got, and.
Is there a question?
No question, sorry.
Mr. Moreno, can you help me? Are there other business areas that we're giving money to?
Mayor, council members, no, and that's something in this activity, there's no other service we're providing. I mean, we have some standard assessment districts that we help out as far as what we're getting paid for those services. This is direct allocation of assistance.
How much revenue does like Monte Vista Crossing bring us?
So Monte Vista Crossing probably brings in about just over 50% of our total sales tax basis. So our budget for the general fund is about 18.8, I believe. So you can kind of put that out to what a major factor overall Monte Vista brings us in.
And roughly, do you know what we get from the P-bid area?
I can't pull that apart because you'd have to pull a geofence in and kind of outline the whole P-bid. But I just take it on a single location basis, right? There's no Walmart downtown, or there's no Target downtown, right? You have some restaurants that are generating some good overall revenue, but I would almost guarantee that none of them are going to be in the top 25 of your sales tax generators.
Other questions?
Yes, can you help clarify the number that Vice Mayor Franco is that the money that, the P-bid assesses itself, we collect it, we give it back to them?
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Is that the total amount?
Yeah, we have a net effect. I mean, there is a small admin component that comes out of it. Yes, the calculation is their total annual assessment. So again, we're just a pass-through. We get the money in different tranches. So we get in January, April, and then we get the last one in April. So that's their total assessment that we received in pass-through.
And then maybe this is a question for Mr. Sims, but can you provide a little bit of the historical perspective on how this PBID may or may not be substantially different from the last PBID 10 years ago?
What's different about this proposed draft agreement compared to the one that's expiring is that the city is taking on the tree trimming, tree pruning parts of the PBID, as well as we're adding an extra 4 hours per week in maintenance cost. And we're also having to do annual pressure washing of the sidewalks as well and bring those light poles up to standard. So that's the big differences between the expiring PBID and this draft agreement.
And what was the last 10 years, what was our payment?
The assessment, we're budgeting about $150,000 each year. I'm not sure what the escalator was for the past years, but I did look at the last year prior to that, and they were still budgeting around $150,000.
And what is our new, first year, new payment gonna be?
For the total amount that we're going to receive, and I think it's in the staff report, let me see.
It is.
Just the total assessment that they're proposing.
I just want the public to know what it is.
I want to say it's 250, right? Yeah, approximately they're going to be generating about 213,000 on the annual assessment. So that's everything they're going to be taxing the entities within
Okay,
the
so-
boundaries.
Basically, almost doubling, well, more than doubling.
You see a slight increase, correct? They also have a factor where they can vote as far as a 5% increase annually, up to. So there is substantially increase.
After the third year.
I thought it was annually.
Annually.
It's annually.
After the first year, they can go up 5%.
Yeah,
Okay.
which I believe it takes a vote of the board to be able to do so.
And we are front-loading the tree trimming for the first 2 years, is it?
So the tree trimming is going to be a heavy lift within the first year because there's been
First
a
year.
lack of maintenance. That's why you're seeing 150,000 in each year. There's quite a few trees down there. It's going to take some time to work through that whole thing and try to phase into it a little bit.
Okay, there was and we're also preloading the light poles in the first 2 years, correct?
Yeah, light poles
150,000 each year?
light poles is the bigger one that we're front loading. There's been, we're gonna have to go out there and paint them, make sure they're staying up to code, electrical and things of that nature. Because they're decorative lights, I mean, the globes get more expensive when they crack. So it's not just a come in and clean up. With this in the agreement, we're required to maintain them too as well, right? So those globes break, we're gonna have to take care of that too as well. Electric goes out, we're gonna have to take care of that as well. So that's not factored into this proposal because it's unquantified, right? It's a variable that we can't quantify at this point because we haven't had to do it as much. It just gets a little more expensive because of decorative lights.
And Helping Hands, are we paying for it, or is
So
TPDOA?
Helping Hands, I think the discussion at this point, if we do go in this direction, that we pay directly. So that's something the city would take on too as well. And just to remember, looking at this spreadsheet overall, this is general fund impact, right? Not all these impacts are actually budgeted for, so we have to make sure we assess what the budget's gonna take on.
Okay, so the 374,000 could be higher every year.
Yeah, you're gonna wanna add on that annual pressure washing, if you look at that first year.
Okay, so
Yeah, so you wanna add about 38,000 each year.
8,235, 60. All right.
Is our budget, I mean, we just started our budget. Did you have that much left over to add another 500,000?
No, we did not factor for this increase.
So where would we get the money?
We'll have to make an appropriation, potentially look at the reserves. I mean, again, this is still a negotiation factor, so nothing is locked in. We really have to have a hard conversation of what we put into this packet, right? And these are preliminary estimates, so we'll keep fine tuning these estimates. So we'll potentially look at what our sales tax is doing. It's kind of hard to look at it. We just started the fiscal year, right? So normally, let's say we're in mid-year. I can tell you, hey, we estimated X, we're currently at Y, we can take up some of this lift. Even at the first quarter, I can potentially have that conversation too as well. But since we're so new into the fiscal year, it's hard for me to make that estimate and make that assessment, that assumption.
This will be for Mr. Sims. So we make all these improvements. Do you see the sales tax revenue increasing to be able to pay back the city for all these improvements?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question, I can't forecast that, so.
I mean, even then, if you think about sales tax and revenues, it's a market factor, right? If we have a slip in the economy, you can have a dip. If we have an increase in the economy, they can increase. Yeah, you can definitely see this increase. But it's just like every other sales tax generator, so.
Specifically related to our giving more money, putting more money in?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, let's open it to the public. Travis, go ahead and come on up.
Sorry, I'm not in a suit and tie today. I farming this week, so I've been out in the fields. I just wanted to touch on a couple of quick things. The monies that you guys were talking about, the assessments, that is not coming out of city dollars. That what you were, yeah, just so you know, that's what property owners are agreeing to assess themselves to put into the district. Same thing with most light districts or any of those. I know you guys are comparing them to them, but they are two completely different animals in the legal game as far as a light district and a PBID, a property and business improvement district. One of the things that should have wrote down the list of the questions you guys are going through. One of the things that I wanted to note was that this is still in negotiations, obviously, and there'll be, within the 45 days, there'll still be 2 council meetings before the vote is heard. And the vote is, if it gets approved, the resolution tonight, that's all they're asking is the resolution is to accept our petition drive, and it allows us to go into the next phase, which is the ballot drive, which would allow us to get on the tax roll in a timely manner, so that we can actually make sure that if the TDPOA goes through or the PBID goes through, that we can actually collect the assessments on the tax roll. This does not agree or obligate the city to do the PBID. You guys have the ultimate say. Even if the votes come in and say, hey, yes, we want to do this, you guys have to accept those votes on the September 26th meeting is what we're shooting for if it gets passed, if the resolution gets accepted tonight. So you guys still have the overall say. We still have time. You can give city direction on what you'd like to see within as far as my understanding is they're allowed to give you direction on what you'd like to see in the city contract. So there is still time to make this a deal that's a win-win for everyone. I hope that kind of answers or relieves you guys of some of the burden. That tonight's vote is just to accept the petition drive, which allows us to open up that 45-day ballot drive. It does not obligate the city to any finances. And we are more than willing to work with the city to come to a win-win solution, especially if you guys have any recommendations. If, as you look down the budget items and see stuff that you may not agree with, to give us direction so that we can look into better options. One of the things I wanted to point out, though, too, is that the lights that we're talking about front loading, that is in the current PBID obligations. This has been in the city's obligation the last three PBIDs, which was 25 years, so since 1998. They have been deferred by the city, so in the new negotiation, we asked that the city put them before they become too big of an issue to do. If you walk downtown, you'll see some of the light poles are starting to rust, and so now instead of surface paint, which is a cheaper fix, now there's some light poles that will require a deeper they clean before you can paint them. It makes it a bigger expense. If they get deferred longer, we fear that it may be a huge expense, or maybe some getting replaced, which is what we're trying to defer with the city so we can keep the downtown looking good. And I think that was one of the major things that we would go through, and I don't want to bring up any past negotiations or anything, but there is open negotiation that we would love to make sense on both ends of the table. So,
Ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So, what do you do with the money that you get from the assessment currently? Where does that go?
Yes,
Not what we give you, but the assessment.
Currently, the only money that we receive from the city, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there is some grants that you guys put out that we apply for like events and 4th of July, and I think you guys have helped us with partnering, which are events that benefit the city as a whole. So we kind of partner on those. It's not really like we're asking for money. We kind of talk, and that's what we discussed. We'd come together and say, hey, is this an event that we can do this year? Our money does go towards events, a business owners committee for downtown. Maintenance lately has been the number one thing that our budget goes to. Unfortunately, our design plan, the beautification plan that was adopted years ago, it's beautiful from an arts perspective, but from a maintenance perspective, the trees that we have downtown they're just nightmares. They ruin everything as far as infrastructure goes, which is an unfortunate thing that it just costs a lot of money to have a beautiful downtown. The paver repairs, those are the things that are the number one expenses that they go to.
But I meant the money that right now we just are like the go-between, so that
Yeah.
153, that's
The
not money
assessments.
we're giving you per se, that's money you guys are getting. So that money's going towards all those things right now?
Maintenance of downtown. So, and that's where the frustration is for a lot of property owners. If you think about where they're at, they're willing to assess themselves more because they see the value in having the P-bid. But for most of these property owners, I would say 95% of them, it is a lot cheaper for them to disband the P-bid that we have and to maintain their 40 feet of sidewalk in front of their one tree. But they don't want to do that because there is a benefit in having a beautiful downtown. They feel that it is the heart of the city, and though we may not bring in, compared to Target or Walmart or all those, people aren't coming from Modesto or Ceres or Merced to shop at our Target or at our Walmart. They have Walmarts in those towns. They're coming to enjoy our atmosphere because that's what people pay for, is ambiance and atmosphere. And that's what we're trying to provide. We feel we're getting ready. We may be going into a recession, and we're competing against cities that are investing in their downtowns, like Modesto and Ceres and Merced. And we just want, for the last 25 years, we've had one of the leading forefront downtowns in the valley, and we just want to make sure that we stay on top of that and cherish our gym that we have down here. So that's what we're looking forward to do.
Other questions for? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. One last thing that I want to touch on was the pressure washing. Pressure washing is something that, to my knowledge, has never been done through the whole downtown, at least in the last 15 years. That was one thing that we wanted to add onto it because there has been a rough, so that is part of the expense. But also that includes, some of the issues that we're now facing that's more modern than we did previously. And of course, you guys already know from some of the stories that are happening of downtown, but that includes cleaning the benches and things like that historically were not done. So,
Okay. Others that want to speak?
Bob Puffer, Turlock. So, the Helping Hands expense is $2,500 a month. Okay, on the screen sheet, it says $2,500 a week.
Yeah, I apologize for that. That was a correction that needs to be made. So it's 2,500 per month, resulting in 30,000 annually.
Okay, so on the tree pruning, after we pay a bunch for tree pruning this year, this thing says that the cost is gonna be $24,133 with no change for the next 10 years?
Yeah, so that upfront cost of 72,400,
Right, but then 24,133 for the next 10 years?
they would have to be trimmed every 3 years, so that just adds up all the trees.
Again, you're saying it's gonna go 10 years and not have any increase in cost?
So this is a preliminary estimate, right? We're getting some quotes on how we're gonna get the information. We forecast it out. We
Let
could
him
put an
finish,
escalator
please.
in there, but
Okay,
it's really
it may
just
be
to
preliminary,
kinda
but
fine tune
you
a
gave an
little bit.
escalator for the staff maintenance week.
So, for
You could have
Let's
thrown, you
answer
could have
his
thrown
question
some
when
kind
he's
of
done.
a
That'll be
escalator on the tree pruning. Again, and this year down, you're gonna say that this year it's gonna be $474,000 because it left out the $100,000 for annual pressure washing. And I'm gonna assume that if we're waiving $25,000, that the city's gotta pick up those fees somewhere. I realize it's preliminary, but it's pretty hard to do a preliminary when there's kind of a lot of questions on this stuff. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's bring it back for some dialogue here. Did you want to answer first?
Sure, we're happy to. So for the tree trimming, again, this is a preliminary estimate. When you think about the tree trimming and the services due, so we have a 20-hour factor that's allocated within this budget. Some of that is to maintain some of the trees. There's some parameters about height and how that's going to be managed, right? So city staff's going to have to take care of that within the parameters. So when we do have somebody come out to take care of it, they're going to have to assess and quote at that point in time. So it could fluctuate potentially because staff's already taking care of it. So maybe it comes down a little bit, or it could go up because trying to maintain those overall trees and that quantity just with city staff is going to be very difficult. So it's an estimate. It's a rough estimate.
I'm gonna throw one at you here. How much are we spending for the whole city in tree trimming? Because I don't think it's that much.
I believe we have a contract. I know we do. I want to say annually it's $30,000 for some reason, 30 to 60. But
For the whole city?
that's a large number. Yes, that's correct. We probably have to put that out to bid or potentially. So
Is,
And, go ahead. I was just gonna say that I know TID does a lot of them. If we could start to actually work with them, we could get a better price, because they end up having to do a lot of areas, and we've had a dialogue with them, but it just kind of stops because we don't get any further along. But I think that would make it cheaper, especially if the whole city's we're only putting that much and we're putting just as much downtown. It seems a little.
follow up to that point, the estimate of citywide tree trimming, that's a contract that's just for parks, right? So when we have maintenance that is doing the rest of like the, center divides and along the sidewalks, things like that.
So the contract the city currently has is kind of a multifold approach, right? So we have issues potentially with storms coming around, and that are impacting our storm drains or in our LMDs they kind of manage. So it could be for the parks, it could be for assessment districts, it could be for just standard city services that we have to maintain. So it's a broad spectrum in which how it could be utilized.
But so are you saying that that's like every tree being maintained is $30,000?
No, majority of it's going to be taken care of by the city staff. What I'm saying, when there's larger jobs or larger tasks or things that come up that we can't manage, we're going to have to outsource.
So the $30,000 that we're trying to compare this to is for like on-call, a tree, goes down in a storm, or there's like an issue that is above and beyond our regular maintenance that staff is already doing and we're paying for just in salary and time and things like that.
Yeah, I think the intention of the contract when initially, I think it was about 2 years ago when they started doing it, was to start a tree trimming program. The intent was that. How much that's come to fruition, I can't speak to, but I can say that was the intent in the original conversation. So how it's being expensed at this point, I can't speak to. Maybe Eric, if you can, I don't. We're bringing the whole team.
You were here for that one.
Our current contract is with West Coast Arborists, and they cover all the divisions within maintenance component, facilities, assessments, streets, parks, sports complexes, and they do major pruning for us. So the difference of what they would do for us in the parks would be like taking out major branches. I know this last storm we had where all these cities had major problems with trees down. I attribute our contract with West Coast Arborists and the work they do for thinning out the trees is part of the reason we weren't affected by that. But they touch every area of the city. As opposed to when they come in and we talk about what they have to do with the P-bid, where they're not doing major branch reduction, they're gonna be shaping trees. They're gonna be pruning a tree like I would prune a tree at my own house, which is gonna be more detailed and time consuming for them. So yeah, it would definitely, the first year going through all the trees would definitely be significant time and money. And then after that, as we came back and we touched each tree once every 3 years, it would be a little bit less. And as you know, once you finally get your tree shaped, if you stay up with it, then it's a lot easier to manage. But they haven't been managed for a while, so the first time around, it's gonna be significant. It'll take a lot of time, and I'm not sure, or the current contractor might not be interested in that, just based on time and money and, cut and go, as opposed to shaping trees. But that's something we'll have to look at as we get closer.
Other questions? No? No? Really?
Can I say something, Mayor?
No.
My light's been on.
Oh,
I've waited patiently.
congratulations.
Yes, for once I turned it on. I think what would be helpful, since this is the contract part of this, which comes later, and we've given you the draft contract, and that's where a lot of the city obligations are. So I think what would be helpful, as this, ends up in my shop, is to get some reaction on page 4 of the staff report, which is the city costs over the 10-year period. And then in Exhibit A to the contract at the very end, on pages 10 and 11, Anthony highlighted the city obligations in the draft contract as presented to us by the Owners Association consultant. And so any direction on that would be helpful. I mean, like if we have to cut back somewhere, where would that be? That kind of thing. And as was said, we have a couple of meetings, so you're not prepared to do that tonight. We could do it at a future meeting.
Does anybody want to throw out anything?
Well, I mean, it is not falling on deaf ears that there's a big spike in years 1 and 2, and then it's, levels off and then increases again in terms of our obligation, if we're talking on page 4 of the staff report. I would like to see if we can spread that out over a little bit more, so it's not a big ask in our budget, but I do think that, well, I'll leave it with that.
I would say that hearing a previous public comment where we have issues with crime, I would rather take, and I don't know what it's called, the ring where they share rings. I don't know what the cost is, Chief, but if we want the downtown to be safe, it can be beautiful as we progress if we have the money, but safe is first. And so if we can do the ring share, what's it called? Where everybody has a ring tone, they can bring it in and you have their
The
video.
doorbell
In
cameras.
terms of video,
Correct.
systems like Fusus that
Yes,
bring in
Fusus.
video, yes.
And how much?
Our initial quote was around 60,000. We're looking at probably 60 to 80,000
For the whole
on an
city?
annual basis for the entire city.
Okay.
They go out to business owners and
Right.
they do the work to solicit the business owners and bring their camera systems in.
I mean, that to me is something that we should put that kind of money where we know that first and foremost, they're gonna be safe and people will come back, right? And the beautification we work on, put a priority on it. I know that there's a ton of it, but we can't just break the bank when we still have to make sure that we have police and fire and their availability, and then we can keep them hired, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first thing I would look at. Helping Hands, I don't want us to be the direct provider. I think that that's not appropriate for us, but I'm just one vote.
Yeah, I agree with the Helping Hands. I think that,
I think they'll do a great job.
they always do a great job, but I just don't think the city needs to be the direct provider. And I don't doubt that we need to enter into a new P-bid. I'm just having a lot of problems with the amount here. But yes, we do need to go into an agreement. I just want to make sure that if we say, yes, we want to go into an agreement tonight, that we're not obligating ourselves to any specific monies and or items. Are we going to have to be responsible for 100% of the tree trimming? I just don't, I think that maybe the owner should take part in some of that too.
Tonight, you're doing the notice of an intent to create the district, and you are approving the plan with the document in there. And so I think Anthony read it. I read through it. I didn't see anything that obligated the city to specifics, but we could always invite Travis back to the microphone to make me feel comfortable about that if he wants to.
Just waiting for permission. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, and you are correct. So tonight is just the intent of renewal, which goes over the management district plan. In the management district plan, all it states is these are the assessments that the property owners have agreed to put forth, and this is where the money will go of just the assessments.
Okay.
In a P-bid, it is mandated that there is a contract between the governing organization of the assessment and the city of Turlock, or the city of what it's in. And that's on the side of the P bid, but it does go hand in hand. It does require. And just for a little more clarification, the current contract that we have in today does not expire until December 31st. So ideally, since we're going into a new P bid with a new budget, we want to have that aligned. But in worst case scenario, there's even extra time
But
to
we
negotiate.
need to have
if
the
we need to.
intention
Yes.
as soon as possible to get on the tax roll.
I agree. Yeah, the intention. That's what I'm saying. There are two separate documents. The P bid is what we're voting on tonight, and that's just stating that these are the assessments that we agreed to collect, and this is the percentages to go to what department, and it should be broken down there for you, being maintenance, events, and things like that.
Yes, and you had each one of the
Yes, so-
77, 50.
Yeah, and you'll see there's a line item budget that's included in that management district plan, and that states specifically what just the assessment dollars go towards. And because legally we have to, be accountable for those, but that does not include if we get a grant from the city or we go state or federal or any fundraising or sponsorships or anything like that. Those monies due for what we raise.
Okay. Our intent tonight is to enter into an
So
agreement.
for those listening, the additional ones that you want us to support you going out, how much more money is that gonna bring you guys
For additional grants and,
for assessment?
assessment.
For the groups that you're asking to come into?
The new assessment?
Yes.
So right now, the last year, we assessment spends were about 154 and some change, and of course, the city takes their administration fee out, so there was 153.06 or whatever it was. The current one will bring out to just shy of 214,000. So it's a third of an increase it's a huge increase. Now, we are expanding our budget, so, and I think that's important to note, as we're talking about what the city is gonna include. We're not coming to the table saying, hey, here's all of our problems, because the problems are there whether the P bid is here or not. And right now we have $214,000 that's willing to come to the table and tackle these issues as a community. And we're, asking for, hey, these are the issues. How do we come to the table and address these and have a beautiful Turlock, as opposed to it dissolving and everyone for themselves and figuring out how to steer that commotion. So.
Are there any other topics that we can only discuss here now so that the city manager and the attorney can work with during the next portion of the negotiations? We kind of need to, do you have enough understanding of what we're looking at?
I believe so.
All right, then what we're looking for is motion specific.
I will motion to approve the resolution of intent to renew the Downtown Property Owners and Business Improvement District.
Wow, that was very good.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, and it passes 4-0. If you go get Councilmember Moniz back, please. Thanks for your patience. All right, guess what? We got an ad hoc here, huh? You ready?
Sure.
All right, item C is seeking city council direction on 4 policy decisions related to the city's cannabis business pilot program. Mr. Wilson, will you start? And Mr.
Mayor, members of the
Petrolakis,
council.
turn his off, please. Thank you so much. No.
It's the city's ad hoc committee on cannabis met on June 29th to review the existing program. They discussed 6 policy areas which were addressed at the meeting by HDL, the consulting firm, and city staff. Significant public input was received. The attached memorandum from the committee presents its current findings to city council with its recommendations. We didn't want to be repetitive, so we suggest careful review of the memorandum from the committee itself as opposed to this report, because it's much more comprehensive. Out of the 6 areas that they studied, consensus was reached on 4 of them. And those 4 were staffs of the pilot program. The committee is recommending the program be continued permanently and eliminate the word pilot. Secondly, should the city allow new business types to operate? The committee felt the existing ordinance covering retail, cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and laboratory testing was adequate. They considered other business entities such as non-storefront delivery businesses and consumption lounges and business activities such as cannabis special events. However, the committee does not recommend pursuing these additions to the city's cannabis program at this time. As the cannabis industry expands throughout the state, the city of Turlock may consider these other business types in the future. Should the city maintain, increase, or decrease the number of retail licenses? We recommend the current retailers remain at 4. Should we set a cap on the number of non-retail licenses? We think the existing market approach is adequate and no cap is required on non-retail licenses, specifically growers and manufacturers. 2 of the policy areas that were left to be discussed further were, should we continue utilizing development agreements to generate public benefit fee assessments or a transition to a cannabis business tax license? We need to have that discussion further. And should the city adjust the cannabis zoning requirements contained in the development agreement? And we'll look at those 2 policy areas. Just point out that the benefit amount that's been produced to date from the cannabis program is $3.5 million, averaging about $1.2 million per year. And the attachment 4 list of fees from other municipalities in the Turlock region, just so you want to know what others are doing. With that, I'll stop here and answer any questions the council may have.
Question for Mr. Wilson or ad hoc chair? Councilmember Abram.
I do.
Sure.
So those first 3 are great. The 4th one where we don't put a cap on growers, my constituents are very much inclined to keep cannabis, eliminate the pilot, and let it sit. Here's what my constituents are not inclined to do, is make the west side the cannabis capital of the town. And if we don't put a cap on the amount of growers that we can have, the west side's going to become the capital cannabis of the town. And I can't have that. I can't vote for that. So that's my concern. The rest of it is good. You did a great job.
Question?
Yeah, I agree that the pilot in the program needs to go away, but I do think that we need to discuss how we're gonna go on from here. The DAs make it, the development agreements make it really hard to manage the cannabis industry, and each one of them has a different time frame, which adds to all of the challenges. So I think, yes, the pilot program, making it, permanent, going away with the pilot, I think, yes, but we need to look at the DAs. Agree with the no new types. Retail, and maybe Mayor can go into this a little more, because we weren't on council at that point in time, but theoretically there was 4 retail establishments, 1 for each district. As of now, District 2 has 2, and District 4 has 2, and Districts 3 and 1 have 0. So maybe we need to consider putting something into our new rules and regulations, that if any of them go out, the new into a district that is not currently that currently doesn't have one, because I sure don't want any more than 2 in mine. Cap on non-retail licenses. I think we need to have a cap on non-retail. If we have a cap on retail, I think there needs to be a cap on non-retail. I think that was a little short-sighted. Zoning. Here's a big one. Turlock has this WISP, and it was a wonderful. The people that thought of the WISP are geniuses. We have something that no one from down south to up north has. We have immediate access to businesses like Blue Diamond, Valley Milk, Divert, Amazon, to come in immediately and bring these businesses that have huge amounts of employees. If we take the WISP and turn it into the cannabis industry, they don't have the need for all of the employees. They don't have the need for a lot of things. So I wouldn't be in favor of taking part of the WISP and putting it into
Is
a
that a
cannabis
question?
thing. Do you really want me to? I thought we were just discussing.
Yeah, but I haven't opened it to public yet.
Okay.
Don't want to sway their votes.
Really?
I know.
Now you're throwing me off.
Totally.
Do it every time.
I do.
Do it on purpose. Okay. Got to turn it into a question.
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone realize that Turlock's the sales tax is way underneath everybody else's? I mean, do you know that Waterford's is 15% across the board? Riverbanks is 10%, Patterson's 15%, Oakdale's 15%, and Turlock is at 5.25%. So maybe we need to.
That I'd like
into
to
that.
answer, actually. I didn't
Is it a
check it,
question?
but yeah, it's like Jeopardy. What is the inaccuracy of those? Those are maximums, I think, that the consultant pulled together. And I have some knowledge about this, and they aren't, I don't think anybody's charging those, but
Do we know what they're charging?
Do we know what the low end is?
that, wouldn't be a question for the
That is a
city
question.
attorney's office. That's more
The
like
city attorney, can we
research,
get
you know?
some feedback on that?
Well, Councilmember Abram, do you know what the low ends are at the other cities?
I'm just referencing, it would be page 296 of our packet here. Are we talking specifically on retail, or it varies per industry?
Retail tax.
Retail. Merced is listed per the information provided by our consultant as 2 to 7%. The 5% seems, 5 is just a little bit lower than ours, is lower. That's specified in this document. If you will hang tight for just a second, I will.
You gonna call somebody?
No. Gonna figure out how to use my technology here so I can get you what the consultant said at the time that was an appropriate amount, which I will just point out is a little bit above and beyond the conversation for right now because, and so I'll take a step back. The committee as a whole and individual conversations I've been able to have with my other committee members, we really do not want to waste staff time or pursue a project that is not consistent with the will of the council and the desire of the community. So that is why tonight we are bringing forth these 4 ideas to really set some parameters before we spend a lot of time to figure out taxation, development agreements, a regulatory regime, looking at zoning, which is something that's very much on our radar and is the desire of this committee. But we really want to know that this is in the interest of everyone's time and money.
Any other questions before we open it public?
Questions?
That's okay. All right, let's open it to public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding weed?
Really?
Oh, did I taint that?
Yes, you
Wonder what I think.
Is that a question?
That was a question.
Okay, thank you, Kevin and Cassandra, for all the work you did on this. Again, I kind of always look, and my perspective is, we have 5 people on the council. And how much money are they donated or has been donated to them by members of the cannabis industry of any of the different forms of, the different forms, the growing or the retail? How much money have they received, from these people? And that would influence them. I've actually noticed an influence in that area, and that is that some people will just get donations from one person. I think at that point they need to recluse themselves from any vote regarding the cannabis industry, because obviously they're going to favor the person who gives them the money. And that's an issue. ethics are not something that's really relished by people on this council. And that's an issue. If you don't have ethical people, you don't know what they're going to do. I have heard other things. I mean, I remember that when we had the last election, not the mayoral, but the election before that, 2 candidates for the council didn't disclose anything. They got loans of $25,000. Well, what if a cannabis industry person was the one who gave them those loans? You don't know where the money's coming from and how this can work out. I can see that as being a problem. We don't have the greatest ethics of some of the people in this room, and that's disturbing. Because if you aren't ethical, how can you trust a person? If they're, if people are unethical, how can you trust them? They are, as I've said so many times before, it's all about money, power, and pleasure. And that's not the way it should be. You can fool the people a lot of time, but you can't fool the people all the time. So I don't want to see people fooling the citizens of Turlock. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
I don't want to have
Tell
my
us your
name.
thoughts on weed.
I don't want to have my name anywhere near this conversation, but I am a constitutionalist, and and being a believer in the free market, I worry about putting limits on licenses. Everything should be licensed and gone through, and it's already a rigorous inspection process. And I get that we don't want the stores in separating them out in the districts. I totally agree with that. But when you're talking about growing or cultivating, I would assume that if you only allow certain members to have it, in my mind, I just feel like it creates this organized mafia type style thing where they're able to do an organized crime and pay for those licenses and be the only ones and keep all competitors out. And I worry about the free market on that part of it in the stores. Have no interest in anything, and doesn't affect me whatsoever. But when you're talking about a free market or the future of it, I would hate to limit something and put more regulations and more government into something that doesn't necessarily need it. It just hinders the growth of whatever or any positives that may come out of it. And I only speak towards the growing and cultivating side of it. That's the part I see, that there's a lot of local farmers that do that, and I don't know if this is only calculated towards the city limits, if that even affects the growers, or how that any of this industry works. But that would be my only concern, is putting a limit on those type of aspects.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's close the comment and come back. I'd love to just start this dialogue. I have been a no on marijuana since day one, and I get money from the cannabis group. So think about the ethics of this. They know I'm a no vote, and they still give me money in my campaign because they know I'm an ethical and moral person. So I feel really comfortable keeping my vote as it has been. It's still something that I think isn't necessary, but I'm also going to go a little further and tell you that I'm absolutely not inclined to change zoning. I spent all my time going up and working on economic development. So when Lenny Mendonça was the czar to the governor, who is from Turlock, California, we sat there, we looked at the whole thing, and he's like, if you don't want it in the West, but if you do it in the West, do it on just the furthest southern border. You don't want it to get convoluted inside because it'll start to make it a problem. So I went with his expertise, the Harvard grad that he is, and I still believe that I don't think we should be going outside of that. I do think that capping it at 4 is probably a safe bet. I said all along that it would never make the money. It was supposed to be $2 million each, right? Everybody's going to make it. I knew it would go back to the black market because that is the way of the world. You're going to go where you're going to get it for cheaper. It's just what people do. And then finally, they talked about it was going to bring all this money to us, and it really hasn't saved us. And so if we're talking about morals and ethics, this is one of those things that I'm going to stand hard on. Like this, This is our future. Our kids are sitting here consuming this. Can they get it somewhere else? Yeah, but it's like having something at the table all the time. Here, have a drink, have a drink. And what do? They start drinking. So it's there, it's at school. We don't need to push it in their faces, but if you guys choose to, that's fine. Those are my thoughts.
I have a question for, I think it's Mr. DeMarino. What have we used our cannabis funds for thus far?
Columbia Pool, mostly.
Cops, yeah.
Yeah.
Cops and Columbia Pool.
Yeah, and I would say that that is a benefit. So I take some offense to the idea that we are pushing drugs in people's faces by letting our city participate in a statewide legal activity.
State, not federal.
Yeah, absolutely. Statewide, legalized activity that brings in money that is helping keep our community safe and giving the West Side a productive and much needed resource. But I digress. I would like to respond to the idea of having a cap on non-retail. My intention as the chair of this committee was to investigate what else is out there, because Turlock only knows the 2 years that we've been trying to do this, or 2.5 years. And so we're missing out on a perspective of what everybody else has been doing for a lot longer. Per our consultant who does this throughout the state, it is really not customary to have a cap on growers, on cultivators, because the market forces are already making it difficult for that business to thrive. And, we've created a system, to Mr. Regallo's point here, with having a cap on 4, that, now we have a commodity that is potentially, of value of having one of these 4 licenses. So the committee felt that it was the middle ground between open, complete free market and, totally over-regulated to maintain the 4 retail establishments, because we've never really had 4 retail establishments operating. We don't know what that's going to look like, but to keep the growers and cultivators where they are. Because Director Quintero, can you help me out on do we have any growers that are operational right now? No, none that are operational. But 2 that are in the works?
Close.
Okay, thank you.
And I think we want those 2 to come in. I just don't know how past that I want to see it go, because again, I know where it's all going to land on my front porch.
Can I just make one more comment too while I was on a roll, had my soapbox still over here? Regarding the zoning, the committee decided at that meeting that was way too much for us to decide. We needed to see maps. I will say that I'm someone that brought that up, and I think that the zoning was an oversight to allow retail businesses in the downtown area, because that's what it currently does.
Yep.
Yeah, I still am in favor of a cap on the non-retail, but one of the reasons is we just don't get a lot of sales tax revenue or any kind of revenue from a grow. You're gonna get those from the retail establishments, not the non-retail establishments. So taking up areas in the WISP would be taking away from other potential businesses. So that's why I'm not in favor of non-retail, not having a cap on non-retail. I just got back from Las Vegas, and they don't have any kind of regulations to speak of there. It's everywhere. It's in the casinos. It is at the bus stops. It's everywhere, and it's really potent, and it's hard because people have children that are walking down the streets. I don't want Turlock to be anywhere close to that. So I really would like to keep a cap on non-retail and retail. And for the record, I put in my own $25,000 to my campaign. I did not take any money from the cannabis industry or practically anyone else. Real estate, yes. Cannabis, no.
Right. That's why it's low.
Yeah. Do you have comments?
Yeah, I do. Ms. Quintero, did we not approve, and I'm sorry, I forget their name, but Mr. Warda is their attorney. Did we not approve them for?
JDI.
Thank you. Are they not approved? They're just not operational yet?
There have been 3 DAs total that were approved
Right. So they're green lighted, they're just not up and running yet.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. No pun intended, okay.
JDA Farms is in plan check, they're close to building permit issuance, you guys together, which will need to submit plans and do their tenant improvements, so they'll have ways to do work to the building and get it.
Sure. Thank you. So my comments are this, Councilmember Abram, I went literally to the pastors of churches in my district and was shocked when they told me, yes, they wanted cannabis to stay. It really blew me away because I thought I was going to be a no vote for that. But when I started polling people, I was like, oh my goodness. And part of that was because the funds from cannabis have partially paid for Columbia Pool. So I am a yes vote for cannabis. And no, I didn't take any funds from anybody for my campaign, especially cannabis. So just a side note. The making it a permanent and getting rid of pilot, absolutely, I support that. The 4 retail locations, I support that. I'm not happy that 2 of the 4 are in my district. I would like it spread out, but we can live with that because I pulled that too when I went to talk to people. I do want to see a cap on the growers. I would really like that, and I don't want to see this in the WISP because of what they've already stated. But overall, I'm a yes vote for cannabis.
Was there one other thing? There was 2 additional. There was so did we?
events?
So for DA versus, nope,
Not there yet.
you don't want any dialogue yet?
Well,
I mean, it's open.
I'd be happy to take it back to the
What do you guys think?
It's more complicated than it seems on its
you're
face,
right.
just so you know, so I'll give you an out here if you
Whimsical.
don't.
Yes, no.
It's very convoluted.
We wouldn't be able to get it on the ballot until anytime soon, if we did go.
If we, and Mr. Petrolak has helped me out if I'm mistaken here, but we would not be able to do anything with the taxation until a general election in which one of us is up for election. So November 24 would be a push, but it's possible.
And that's true of a general tax, so if you want to impose the tax or have the voters vote the tax in by 50% plus 1, that's a general tax, and that has to be the same general election where members of the legislative body are on the ballot. And if it was a special tax, which would require the 2/3 approval margin, it could be at any election. So it was accurate, but there's lots of nuances.
Okay, so really, there's not a motion to be had here. It's just giving you the ad hoc direction, and you got it as well?
Could I just leave an open question here if anyone wants to bite on if the desire is to have a cap on non-retail, is there some sort of metric you would like us to consider? Because like I said, that's not common, that's not standard, so we'd be wading into uncharted waters.
Well, I think one of the problems is that it can only go in basically districts 2 and 4. And then that leaves it probably most inclined to be in the WISP, and that's gonna be the problematic part. Or taking over some of the farmland, which, I mean, you know, I think I'd get more out of corn or something.
Can I try to, I don't even know what skin the cat means, but can we try to skin the cat in a different way? So
It's visual.
There is
all
more than
these,
one
all
way to
these
skin a
phrases.
cat.
Yes, right, so I'm gonna try another way.
Who's
So
digressed?
really, I think what the committee needs and the staff needs is just a sense of where the council's at on the 4 items that
We get
came
that.
up on an interim basis. So on one, is there kind of consensus on that, that we can kind of regularize the program?
Sure.
Okay, and then so you're telling me there's consensus on 1, 2, and 3? Is that what
To
I'm
the
hearing?
tune of like a 4-1?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
'cause
and then
she's a
on
no.
number,
Because I take money.
you're,
So
She's a no.
yeah.
I'm a no.
But you got 4, right?
Okay, and then on number 4,
It's a cap.
what's the committee, because the committee doesn't really have to deal with it again, in a sense, right? I mean, the recommendations being made, so that could move forward as an independent item, but I'm not quite sure whether action is wanted by the council on that or not.
It'd be 3 no's, it sounds like, right?
For the cap on
So three yeses to cap
non-retail.
it. On number
Well,
4?
I'm not against non-retail, I'm for non-retail.
I'm okay with non-retail, I just want to cap on
Right,
non-retail.
that's where I'm at.
As far as a
Who-
matrix goes, to
Who wants a cap, nod their heads, or whatever? Okay.
I would ask,
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, is this, are we making a decision based on any data? No, it's a gut feeling.
Well, the committee had enough information to make the recommendation that no cap was required, so.
Well, I think the consensus of the ad hoc was that the free market will probably take care of itself, as it kind of has in the retail business also. You know, we don't have people beating down the doors, or they're certainly not, seem to be in any hurry to get up and running. And I don't know that, I said, I think we're spinning our wheels unless we have some data.
So you need a map, is that what you're saying, like where it would go?
Yeah.
Would that help?
Well, exactly.
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Well, I think Councilmember Abrams said that we needed to look at some maps, which we have not done. The committee's not had the opportunity to do that. So I would suggest that when the committee gets back together, we'll look at maps and then come forth with recommendations to council based on our ability to look at those maps and make some decisions for you to consider.
sounds like 1, 2, and 3 are good, and 4 is still up in the air, and thank you both for all your work on this.
Yeah, great job.
Can't be
Great
easy.
job.
No animals were harmed in this production.
Thank you for the clarification. All right, so that is done. We're moving on to D, and I believe Chief Hedden's gonna stand up and tell us he needs a Sprinter van and a couple of trucks, a truck and some unmarks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My request tonight is for the approval of 4 vehicles to be funded out of Measure A for the police department. We talked about this originally in the budget meetings, and we decided to bring this back at a later time. We've added 13 positions with Measure A funding to the police department, and I'm proud to report that we've filled the majority of those positions. We've allocated some new employees, identified them to go to the academy, so that's bringing our gap very narrow. But with that comes the need for additional vehicles and additional vehicles to support the programs that we put into place at the police department. The Sprinter van will support the drone program. It's been a very effective crime tool here in Turlock. We've had 80 successful deployments in just a short time of around a year, around a year of the program being active. And 21 arrests are credited to the use of the drone, getting up above using FLIR technology and high-tech cameras. We were also supported in that program by a local church that funded our most expensive drone around to the tune of $16,000. So we're looking for that van to support that program and be a bigger benefit to the community. It'll also serve as a light command vehicle that can be deployed out. We had talked earlier about the cost of fuel. We have a bigger command post. We won't always need to roll out the bigger command post with a lighter duty Sprinter type van. We have a request for additional vehicles, again, to support the additional staffing that we have at the police department. One specifically is an evidence truck. Historically, our evidence unit has been able to go out to the CSO trucks because our CSOs were in the office. They weren't out on patrol, and they could utilize those vehicles to run evidence, process evidence, things like that. They take a lot of items to the lab now using NIBIN technology. So we've seen an uptick there. So there's a need for them to have their own vehicle with CSOs being deployed back out on the road. And I'm very grateful to the council for allocating the additional bodies to us under Measure A. And now I'm asking for the vehicles to support those bodies.
For them?
Take any questions?
Come on. Questions for the chief?
Nope.
Let's open it to public.
Okay, well, the first thing, action recommended, it says 2 unmarked vehicles. And under the discussion of the issue, it says 4 unmarked vehicles.
No, the original request when we came to council was for unmarked vehicles, but we decided let's sharpen our pencils as we're looking at this and coming back to council. Let's see if there's any vehicles that we could pair up, and let's see if we can cut this down. Maybe some of the vehicles that we're running out, we could transfer those over to use so we don't have to spend the extra money.
Okay, on the drone program, what are you using right now for the drone program vehicle? That's one question. The Sheriff's Department has successfully deployed 3 similar Sprinter vans to support their staff, and at a cost of $125,000. Have you thought about maybe asking the county to sell us one used? Because right now, you said you used it 50 times in 10 months, so let's be generous and say that's 6 times a month or 1.5 times a week. And I'll bet it's not driven a whole lot of miles, and perhaps we could find a good used one that would serve our purposes. What vehicle do we want to buy for a truck? It just says the estimated cost of a truck. Has anybody made a decision of, this is the vehicle we want and taking the time to get prices? Or are we just being like the Oakland A's and just asking the county for $380 million on a lick and a promise? The same thing with the two unmarked vehicles. It doesn't say what kind of a vehicle or what's needed for make them $65,000 each, or if they're actually even going to cost $65,000, or if they're going to cost more. And I would think before coming to the council to ask for money that you'd have things locked down a little bit more. And that Sprinter van, $125,000 for a vehicle that's not going to be driven very much. I would think you could look for a cheaper alternative. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, let's close the public comment, and could you answer some of those questions?
So currently for the drone unit, we have a vehicle that we're using. It's just a police patrol vehicle. It doesn't support the type of use that we need with the video screens, radios for operational command and control of an incident. Again, we have an aging command vehicle that we do use. It's a larger diesel engine command vehicle. So this is not only used for the, as I called it, 80 deployments a year for the drone team. It's used to support us at the Stanislaus County Fair, a number of events. Again, lighter command duty vehicle that can be deployed a lot easier in the field. As far as the Sheriff's Department, they continue to add. They don't have vehicles that they're trying to get rid of. And with technology, as they're looking to surplus those out, it doesn't benefit us because we're getting some old technology that the Sheriff's Department isn't wanting to use anymore. As far as the truck and the other vehicles, we do have specs. We continue to buy vehicles for various uses, from patrol to the code enforcement trucks that we just bought. So we have an idea of what we're going to purchase, and that comes off the state contract bid price.
A motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Council.
All right, moving to City Manager's monthly reports. We're all there. Ad hoc committee, homeless.
Mr. Wilson? Yeah. Sure. Me or Wilson, who do you want?
Yes.
Mayor, members of the council, I needed guidance from the ad hoc committee about when they wanted to get together again. We've decided on the 31st, okay?
As in like October?
August 31st.
Just messing.
Halloween, yeah, Halloween.
Mr. Petronakis, did you want to say something?
No, I just have my light on.
And we'll be meeting at 5 o'clock
Here?
here.
Outstanding. All right,
Just one other note. A little while back, it was requested that we go get some information about the status of our mobile homes and our mobile home parks. Want you to know that we've sent 500 surveys out to the mobile home parks and to the residents of the mobile homes. And we'll be seeking information about the condition of them, what's deferred maintenance, what kind of issues and needs that they have. So that should be coming back here in the next 30 days.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, council items for future consideration, Councilmember Abram, nothing, Councilmember Bixel. Vice Mayor. Oh, God.
Vice Mayor.
Is
I
it a
heard-
question? Is it a question?
No question. Still looking for the housing meetings and workshop dates. And when Jeffrey Lewis can come and give us an update. And I'm in agreement with Mr. Bridegroom that we do need to have some sort of tracking system for our requests, because what we voted on, because a lot of times these things will get by us and we have no idea how long this has happened. So I'd kind of like a tracking system on our votes.
We'll develop something.
Thank you.
Anything? So again, I forget what you call it, Chief, but the ring sharing thing, I'd love to see what that looks like. Okay, you just gotta listen to him too much. Okay, fuses. If you would look at that, I'd love to see what that looks like for our whole city. We gotta keep working towards technology if we can't hire as many people as we need.
Remember how slow we were on LPRs? Now we're being slow on the fuses, I'm just saying.
And then in Saturday's paper, our letter to the editor from Mr. Lewis, he actually speaks to the amount of food providers in the city, which is astronomical. And it's essentially 30 different times and groups are doing this. And so the duplication is excessive. And so I would love to figure out if that goes with your ad hoc committee or where, but we need to start to refine things so that we can get rid of duplication and make money more efficient for what it should be going to. I think that I heard at one of the many churches that I've attended in the last couple of years, and they said one of the reasons people come here is because they can eat all the time. And that's kind of us, but that means that the people who are like, still have a home but can't afford food aren't getting something because we're excessive here. So I would like to see something refined on that. And then comments, Councilmember?
I'm done, sorry. Yes, I'd just like to say that thank you to everyone who is involved with National Night Out, from the police department's planning to the fire department and everybody from the police department that came out with us. I had some great conversations in my district, and I'm really pleased that we could do that, and I'm really pleased to see that the community came out and had their events.
I will piggyback on that. I had a blast. It was fun we went to several places, including Columbia Pool, where the cement pond's going to go. So it was fun to get some feedback from people there, but all over the place. It was a great evening.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that as well. National Night Out, totally awesome. Thank you, Chief, and your staff, and thank you, TFD, for coming out. You were always one step either behind me or ahead of me.
Good job.
We were only at one place at the same time together, and that was at Columbia. So thank you both. I appreciate it. And if we haven't welcomed Chief Hunter record in shot put and javelin, both, we have a star in the house. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So I was glad you were up winning those gold medals and setting those new records, because I got to steal your seat in the Chief's car for National Night Out. Thank you, Chief, for hosting me. I had a blast. But I have to tell you, this Sprinter van was a really important thing tonight, because for those of you that have never seen our $16,000 drone that the city of Turlock has, it's downright impressive. And the SWAT team is going to give me heat for this, so I'm just going to tell you all now, just suck it up for a minute. The drone team gets called out more than the SWAT team does, okay? I know, the SWAT's going to kill me tomorrow. It's all right. It's impressive, and we need that Sprinter van for that. We had that drone out at Columbia Park all night on National Night Out, and it blew some socks off. So I'm proud of our assets and what we have. That is a great asset to the police department for catching the bad guys. Outside of that, Chief Hunter, welcome. We're glad you're here. And yeah, she got 2 gold medals, folks.
Sorry, I'm gonna invade her space for one more thing.
Wow.
I wanted to address something that Debbie had brought up earlier, and that's the homeless in Empire. And she was wondering why it was so high. It's because the Empire has the labor camps, and when the people are not in the labor camp, they are then homeless if they don't go home.
So if Debbie's home listening right now, Councilmember Bixel and I expect you to be at the ad hoc meeting on the 31st.
Perfect. All right. Mini clerk, if you'll read the closed session?
We have
talk about your old mouse?
Not at all.
12A, Conference of Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, California Government Code, Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 2, potential cases 2.
Outstanding. All right, and we will report out should there be anything. Thank you and have a safe night. Thumbs up? Okay. We're back from closed session. There was nothing to report out. Thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.